We do things differently.
It's explaining the absolute madness of this, doesn't it?
It's explosive.
I mean, this is very good.
It's lively.
850. Your government sat there, Sean, and it did nothing.
It's controversial.
And the Middle East has been in turmoil since before I was born.
It's everything you need to kickstart your evening.
Everyone's had their Weetabix tonight. I love to see it.
That's Patrick Christie's Tonight, weeknights from 9 p.m. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Hi there, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and I'm going to take a second to tell you all about my show, Dubes & Co. We start off with the issues of the day. We then bring in both sides of the argument. We get rid of the disrespect, and then you throw me into the mix. And trust me, I'll tell it exactly how it is. And then, of course, the magic ingredient, you at home. We mix it all together, and what have we got? In my opinion, the best debate show in town. Monday to Friday, 6 till 7 on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Every Saturday, 10 till 12, we'll bring you all of the news that you need to know. We'll also remind you that there is so much to smile about.
It's my favourite time of the week. I get to relax, enjoy some light-hearted stories, and let Ellie teach me about fashion too.
That's Saturday Morning Live, every Saturday, 10 till 12.
Only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
A very, very Merry Christmas Eve to you. Welcome to the Martin Daubney Show. It's 3 p.m. We're broadcasting for you live from the heart of Westminster and all across the UK. Today, we've got a very special, jam-packed, festive bumper edition of the show. It's been a tumultuous year in British politics. From this year's Things Can Only Get Wetter general election announcement, followed then, of course, by two-tier Keir, free gear Keir, never hear Keir, and Starmer, the farmer harmer, to the rise of reform on the night before Christmas. I'll be asking, who's had a Christmas cracker? And which turkeys have had a year to forget? And a right royal year it has been, from the King and Princess Catherine's cancer diagnoses to a double spectacular recovery and seemingly non-stop nonsense from Harry and Meghan. It's been a right royal year to remember. We'll look back at some of the highs and lows of the royal family in 2024. And Britain is bracing itself for a record-breaking Christmas Day as thousands of illegal immigrants are expected to arrive on dinghies from France. Labour promised to smash the gangs, but the evil people smugglers never stop, not even at Christmas. And to chew this over on today's show, I'm joined by my festive panel, Susie Stride, the political commentator and Labour activist, and the Conservative commentator, Aman Bogow. That's all coming up in your next hour. Stay tuned and let's get cracking. Only one more sleep now. Have you done your wrapping? I haven't started. Have you bought your presents? Ditto. Hopefully the missus is watching and you've got it all nicely in the bag as ever, saving me at Christmas. Here's a question I want to put to you today. If you could invite 3 people to Christmas dinner, living or dead, anybody, who would it be? Who would be your dream Christmas dinner? I'll get the ball rolling, shall I? I'll go for Donald Trump. I'll go for football manager legend Brian Clough and Lemmy from Motorhead. Now, what does that say about me? I like a bit of rock and roll, I like a bit of sport, and I like a bit of politics. Today, we've got all of the above. Let me know, who is your dream Christmas dinner guest? Get in touch. gbnews.com/your say. But now it's time for your news headlines.
Martin, thank you very much, and a very Merry Christmas Eve to you as well. Well, it's just gone 3 o'clock. The top story this hour: thousands of migrants are massing along France's northern coast, preparing to cross the Channel over Christmas. Exclusive GB News footage shows hundreds in makeshift camps near Dunkirk, with many more spotted along the coast. Sources say thousands are waiting for calmer weather expected tonight, with crossings potentially topping 2,000 people in the coming days. Border Force says it is on high alert, while smugglers are advertising a so-called Christmas special to reach the UK before the new year. More than 35,000 people have crossed so far this year. That's a 20% increase on 2023. Sir Keir Starmer has come under fire today for planning to jet abroad over the new year after spending Christmas at Chequers with his family. Critics have slammed his recent travel habits, with over 170 hours spent in the air since July, while key domestic issues, they say, remain unresolved. The Prime Minister's team won't reveal his destination for the new year, but insist he will stay in charge rather than handing over to his deputy. His latest foreign trips to Norway and Estonia only wrapped up just last week. Looking towards a better and a brighter future, that is the Prime Minister's Christmas message, his first in power. 6 months into his leadership, he's urging people to look after those around us, with calls for peace in the Middle East as well. Opposition leader Kemi Badenoch struck a personal note, calling Christmas her very favourite time of year and thanking the public for their support and kindness, while Liberal Democrat leader Sir Ed Davey paid tribute to young carers, sharing his own experience of looking after his sick mother while he was a child. The race to go green is back on as the government launches a consultation on phasing out new petrol and diesel cars by 2030. Transport Secretary Heidi Alexander promises clarity for the auto industry, updating targets for zero-emission vehicle sales and threatening £15,000 fines for manufacturers if they miss their quotas. But car makers, including Ford, warn the demand isn't keeping up and say bold government incentives are urgently needed. In Brighton, police are searching for 2 men after the rape of a 19-year-old man in the city. The victim was approached near a restaurant early on the 21st of December before being attacked. He later managed to find help from a passerby and is being supported by specialist officers. Detectives are now asking anyone who may have seen anything take place or recognises the men in 2 pictures released to get in touch. In the United States, there has been Christmas Eve chaos earlier for 500,000 passengers as a technical glitch grounded all American Airlines flights. The Federal Aviation Authority issued a nationwide ground stop for the airline's 6,000 daily flights. They have now resumed, with passengers reporting they are starting to board, but delays are expected to ripple throughout the day. A Russian cargo ship under Western sanctions has sunk in the Mediterranean after an explosion in the engine room left 2 crew members missing. Footage shows the vessel listing badly before it went down near Spain and Algeria. 14 crew were rescued and brought safely to Spain, but officials haven't yet confirmed what caused the blast. Ukraine, though, claims that the ship was on a secret mission to Syria to remove weapons after the fall of Bashar al-Assad. And NASA's Parker Solar Probe is set to make history today on Christmas Eve with the closest ever approach to the Sun. The spacecraft will skim just 3.6 million miles from the star's surface. Trust me, it's closer than it sounds. Enduring temperatures of nearly 1,000 degrees and speeds of 430,000 miles an hour. Scientists say the mission will uncover secrets about solar activity, helping to protect satellites, power grids and astronauts. The spacecraft is set to reconnect with Earth on the 27th of December, hopefully safely completing its record-breaking flyby. Those are the latest headlines for now. Plenty more still to come this afternoon with Martin.
For the very latest GB News direct to your smartphone, sign up to News Alerts by scanning the QR code or go to gbnews.com/alerts.
Thank you very much, Sam. Now, 'twas the night before Christmas when Sir Keir Starmer released his first Christmas message to the nation since becoming Prime Minister. Sir Keir Starmer, who went to Downing Street, of course, after leading Labour to what could be considered a landslide victory, if a shallow one, depending on how you look at it. On July the 4th, Starmer filmed his message beside a Christmas tree in number 10. Let's have a little listen.
Christmas, people will be travelling up and down the country, heading home, visiting relatives and loved ones, to celebrate together the hope and joy of this special season. It's a time to remind ourselves what's really important: family, friendship and fellowship between all people, being there for one another in these celebrations as well as the more difficult times. I'd like especially to thank those who will spend their Christmas serving others this year, in our NHS and emergency services, our armed forces, and the churches and charities that will welcome every person this Christmas. Because I know this is not an easy time for everyone. And my thoughts are with all those who are lonely this Christmas, having a tough time, missing a loved one. You are not alone. because as Christians celebrate the birth of Jesus Christ, the Christmas story reminds all of us to reach out to one another, to care for one another, and to look after those around us. This Christmas, I will be hoping for peace, particularly in the Middle East, as the birthplace of the Christmas story. I'll be looking towards a better, brighter future for every person, and celebrating the joy and wonder that Christmas brings. So, from my family to yours, I hope you have a very Merry Christmas.
Have a Merry Christmas. Perhaps, though, if you're not a pensioner who's lost their winter fuel allowance, perhaps not if you're a farmer concerned about inheritance tax, perhaps not if you're one of the millions of waspy women. But Sir Keir Starmer certainly likes his tree. And while we're in the Christmas spirit, shall we remind ourselves of a very awkward moment earlier this month when the Prime Minister turned on the number 10 Christmas light?
5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Yay! It worked. Nervous moment there, but it's all good.
And there we go. Right, let's get the thoughts now of my spectacular Christmas festive panel. Susie Stride, the political commentator and Labour activist, and the Conservative commentator, Aman Bogal. Thank you very much for joining me, and a very Merry Christmas to you
yes,
both.
Merry
Susie,
Christmas.
let's start with yourself. So Keir Starmer has to be said. One of the things I think that resonates with punters, voters, the great British public, he hasn't got the most personality, has he? In fact, when he turned the Christmas lights on there, people joked at the time there was more atmosphere on the moon. And it is fair to say that at this time of year, it's not just about policy, it's not just about reading from an auto cue, it's about trying to connect with the voters. Do you think, let's focus now first on the Christmas message, did it hit the right points? And of course, he had to mention peace in the Middle East.
I mean, I think it's really important, isn't it, to just mention that actually Christmas is a difficult year for lots of people, a difficult time of year for lots of people. I thought it was really heartfelt. I thought it was really important. I think people who are going through a difficult time, or maybe who have lost a loved one, will watch that and be like, OK, you know, he's understanding that actually Christmas can be a difficult time of year. I think it's right that he mentions the Middle East. As a Christian, I love that he mentioned that's where the Bible story begins, and he talks about how, you know, Christians celebrate the birth of Christ, which I think is really important, because sometimes we can get a little bit politically correct, can't we, and all of that. And I think it's important that actually this is a really important time of year for the religious group of Christians. But yeah, no, I think it was fine. And also, look, you know, we don't want a TV celebrity. That's not what we're looking for here. We're looking for someone, because I want someone that's going to make good decisions for the future of the country.
When's that going to start happening?
I think that's exactly what Keir Starmer's doing. He's going to sort out the NHS. He's going to sort out building 1.5 million homes. Do you think children's lives are going to be better at the end of 5 years under Labour compared to the Tories? I can tell you 100% yes. As someone who's been frontline in schools, Tories devastated schools. You can't find a teacher. Can't find a teacher to vote for them.
We'll talk about the economy later on. The evidence at the moment, actually, rather than fixing foundations, the foundation's starting to wobble massively. But let's get back to the Christmas message. Quite a few people might be choking on their mince pies watching that, about I wish peace on everyone, particularly this year. Pensioners. Sir Starmer and the granny harmers freezing this Christmas almost became the Christmas #1 this year. There's a petition of 3 million calling for a general election. A lot of people aren't feeling the Christmas cheer. A lot of people are feeling severely, actually, like they've got the rough end of the pineapple. And those decisions were made by the Labour Party. And you have to admit, within 7 months, there are a lot of people that are very politically motivated, people who vote, people that the public empathise with, farmers, pensioners, waspy women, that have seemingly found themselves on the wrong end of what appears to be something of a cruel Labour government.
OK, yeah, I mean, it's important to, I think, broaden out a little bit and have a bit of perspective. So let's talk about other people. Let's talk about the children, and let's talk about the kids.
Let's answer the question.
No, because what I'm saying...
Was it fair to pick on pensioners, farmers and waspy women?
What's really interesting is, you know, you guys talk a lot about, you know, actually we need to be really careful with the country's finances and, you know, with the economy and all these different things. Therefore, we have to make tough decisions, which actually are as a result of 14 years of the Tories. And it's really important to talk about this, this, because even right-wing academics, would say it is almost preposterous to blame what is going on in the country right now on a Labour government that's been in 5 months, going on 6. It's like blaming the sewage in the rivers on us.
Let's bring in Aman Bogle at this point. How long can the Labour Party keep blaming the Conservatives, the £22 billion plan back goal? And isn't it about choices?
Exactly.
Like, you'll be dancing around the mistletoe if you're a train driver, if you're a public sector worker.
Or even if you are a foreign farmer who they're sending the same amount of money they're taking away from British farmers, which is about £500 million. Martin, the thing is, Labour Party's had 14 years to prepare for government. We've seen across the pond, President Trump is coming in. He's had less than 4 years to prepare for government again, and he's brought in a big team of people who are going to get stuff done. We've had free care gear, we've had, two-tier care, and I think now we've got Grinch care, who's taken away everything from farmers, from pensioners, from the WASPy woman, who he and his candidates promised everything in the world to. But more than that, I think going back to his Christmas message, Martin, I think he's very quick to mention peace in the Middle East, as important as it is. I think for a British Prime Minister, it would have been far better to mention, well, what about our civilizational inheritance? That Britain is a Christian country. Why couldn't he say that? Why couldn't he say that it is right to use the word Christmas to describe Christmas? We've had market stalls, market owners being told, don't use the word Christmas, use winter market. For goodness sake, this is a Christian country. Christianity is what made this country great. Those are our roots. Let's go back to them.
And I wonder, Susie, if that's the point. There have been so many positions in opposition from the Labour Party where their own data said 4,000 pensioners would die if the winter fuel allowance was axed. That the Prime Minister himself campaigned at the National Farmers Union conference before the election saying farms are different. They're not ordinary business. They should be treated differently. And every single one of the cabinet top brass, including the Prime Minister, posed with their little WASPy boards and signed their pledges. This is about double standards.
No, I just don't agree. I'm sorry. Look,
on which point?
Well, let's say, first of all, with the WASPy women, those boards, that was the 2017 general election, and then that was the 2019 general election. It was 3 general elections ago. And let's be honest.
The demands are the same.
Let's be honest, as if the Tories don't change their mind. And the funny thing is, do you actually think, if we got Boris Johnson, Rishi Sunak, well, how many Prime Ministers have you guys had? Get them on it. They would not be doing the business helping the WASPy women. No way at all. So I'm sorry, it's utter hypocrisy. But why don't we talk about the 4.3 million children that are in poverty today in this country?
Okay,
why don't we talk about that? Because I think that's very serious.
Define poverty
now, on
for
Christmas
me,
Day,
Susie.
there are children.
One at a time.
Right now, on Christmas Day, honestly, things like this break my heart, because my mum was one of them back when she was a little kid. There are kids, 4.3 million. We should not have that. We're like the 6th richest country in the world.
Do you think
and I think the Tory record on that is shocking.
Susie, pause, take a breath.
Yes.
Do you honestly think... Honestly, I grew up in the 1970s, right, in a coal mining community. There was poverty. I've grown up in poverty. Do you honestly think there is more poverty now than there was in the 1970s or in the 1950s when we're rebuilding the country? Honestly, do you believe there's more poverty now?
I'm not an expert in child poverty, so I can't compare those two things. And I'd expect there isn't, but obviously that doesn't mean that there aren't kids. I've worked with teenagers. Do you think there are children in poverty in this country today?
Well, I don't think...
Do you think there are?
I don't think
Let them have a say.
Look, I grew up on a council estate in South East London with not 2 pennies to rub together. I know what real poverty is, and I can tell you there are not 4.3 million people, children, living in extreme poverty in this country. Let's be honest. Since 2010, there were more good quality school places provided by the Conservative government than before. Than under New Labour. That's a fact. You can't refute it. It's a fact. The point here is... Labour has always, Martin, asked that, look, the state should look after children's interests. The state should provide school breakfast. No, it's not. It's the parents who should be responsible for children. And that's where this ludicrous idea of 4.3 million people in the 6th biggest economy in the world, children come into play. It's nonsense.
Isn't that the point, Susie, that the Labour Party is quite happy to play nanny, to be the mother to all these children? The fact of the matter is the parents should be working, get off benefits, crack down on benefit culture. It's not the state's responsibility to feed every child in Britain, is it?
Of course course it's not. And ultimately, we are strong believers, and actually we're probably bigger believers than the Tories. I tell you what, we're going to get those people back to work that should be working.
When?
But that is not the same. That is not the same as saying if you've got a child whose both parents are working, and actually there is still poverty in the home, and that is happening in Britain today. And I'm sorry, it's an out of touch thing to say that is not true. But the second thing is really important. You saying about, I mean, what you were saying about education and the Tories. If we brought in 1,000 teachers from across the country, you would not find a teacher that says that their school is in a better place.
So that's because they all vote Labour.
No, they would just say, look, the levels of cuts we had, all the sport in the schools we had,
why we have decimated. To have austerity?
You know, all the extracurricular stuff decimated. You know, parents and teachers having to buy books for their kids in their class. I mean, it's madness.
Okay, so when's it going to start getting better? When are you going to start taking responsibility for the country and stop blaming the Conservatives?
No. There's two different things here. There's one thing blaming. There's one thing talking about the situation we're in. You've got to dissect the problem. This is the problem we have. We can't live on cloud nine.
Okay.
Schools are in a really difficult place.
Martin.
The NHS is in a difficult place.
Susie, let's have the final word of this section to Aman.
Let's break this down. Until the pandemic came through, this country's finances were in a pretty good shape. The deficit had been cut by 3/4. We had growth every single quarter. We had better things coming up in the economy, and people were feeling better off. Now, let's be honest. If Labour were in power during the pandemic, they would have gone further with the furlough. They would have gone further with the borrowing, and that would have meant bigger debt for the UK, and that would have meant bigger cuts right now. But it's about decisions right now. Labour are happy to give away millions, £500 million to foreign farmers, happy to spend £10 million a day on the dinghywalas crossing the channel illegally, but they're not happy to give away the winter fuel allowance to our hard-working pensioners who spent their lives.
All right, we have to leave it there. Ding, ding. End of round one. Magnificent start to the show. Susie and Aman, thank you very much. Move on now, because it's time for our biggest and greatest Great British giveaway this year, and your chance to win £50,000 in tax-free cash in time for Christmas. It's the biggest cash prize we've ever given away at GB News, and here's how it could be yours.
It's the biggest, greatest Great British giveaway so far, with your chance to win a spectacular £50,000 in tax-free cash. 2025 could be amazing.
Coming up, Brits heading home for Christmas could face hours, of course they could, stuck in gridlock as shoppers head out on last-minute trips. Will you be impacted? Stay tuned for the legendary travel guru Simon Calder. After the break, I'm Martin Daubney on GB News, Britain's News Channel.
I'm Tom Harwood. This is GB News, Britain's news channel.
In the GB newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK,
we're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News,
the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
Sunday with Michael Portillo from 11, only on GB News.
Dora Carrington is not known to lots of people, and very few pieces are in public collections. So you have had a great deal of work to do to put this exhibition together.
Absolutely. It's been, next year, it will be 30 years since the last major exhibition of Carrington's work, which happened in 1995 at the Barbican Gallery. And I guess if people know Carrington's work, they might have seen the film that took place that year, that came out that year, starring Emma Thompson as Carrington and Jonathan Pryce as Lytton Strachey, who was her main kind of key relationship in her life. And that, in a way, dramatised a lot of those relationships. And so people will often know her life as much as her art. There's only 16 works in public collections, and so apart from chances such as the big billboard campaign you mentioned 10 years ago, there have been very few chances to actually see her work in the flesh. And so what this exhibition does is bring together around 80 works by Carrington and a few of her key contemporaries, providing a new generation really a chance to see and enjoy her work. She was one of the most remarkable of her generation at the Slade School of Art. She won several prizes for her drawing and her draftsmanship. And in the first room of the exhibition, we have some of the work, for example, a couple of female nudes that she painted when she was at the Slade, and they really are kind of quite outstanding.
One of the things that's been said is that in her landscapes, she's sometimes painting the human body as well as the landscape. Is that something that occurred to you? Can you stand up that?
Yes, I mean, one of her most famous paintings we have of Spain has. It's very much like you could liken it to the female form. You know, the kind of the
delicately put.
Yes.
GB News, the People's Channel.
Join me, Nana Akwe, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, though.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
I'm Stephen Dixon, and thanks for joining us on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back. It's 3:25 with me, Martin Daubney, here on GB News. Now, thousands of travellers hoping to reach home for Christmas have had to organise last-minute alternatives as flights, ferries and even trains, of course, have been cancelled across the UK, while drivers face the usual traffic chaos on our motorways. Well, the travel correspondent at The Independent, Simon Calder, joins me now. Simon, always a pleasure to see you. Well, it usually is, if you've got good news. Can we start with the trains? On a very selfish point, I'm trying to get out of Paddington tonight around about 7 o'clock. Are things running tickety-boo? Please tell me yes, otherwise I might be spending Christmas in the coal bunker.
Well, I'm very glad to say that I've actually I've done a sweep of the big London stations, Paddington running perfectly normally, but crucially, you are not, my friend, going to have any time to dawdle, because on Christmas Eve, the trains start winding down, well, to the point where the final southbound departure from Edinburgh to London is going to be in less than an hour, same from Leeds to Bristol Temple Meads. And so, therefore, most trains are going to be back in the depot by about mid-evening. There are a few exceptions, but really it's just a question of watching the clock and making sure you can get where you need to be. Been across at London Waterloo, busy but managing. And of course, the crucial thing is at London Paddington is that when it closes down this evening, it's not going like the rest of Britain's railways to come back to life on Friday the 27th. It's going to remain closed for another few days because of the work that's going on about HS2. And that means that there won't be any direct trains from London Paddington to the west of England and to South Wales. There will be, oddly, trains running from London Euston to those places, but a lot fewer, and they'll be taking a lot longer.
All right, so getting away from London, everyone always complains, all we talk about is London on this show. What about nationwide? And what about people trying to do the Great British Getaway from airports? What are the flights looking like?
OK, well, again, looking around all of the UK's airports, things are much smoother than they have been. For instance, of course, on Sunday, we had that terrible incident at Belfast City Airport, which closed the runway when a plane came in and sadly had a hard landing and the nose wheel collapsed. Nobody hurt, but it caused immense disruption. That was on top of 100 cancellations the same day to and from Heathrow. The big problem this afternoon is the ground stop that was applied to all American Airlines flights worldwide. That is extraordinary. It's a vast airline, and at 11:50 this morning, for an hour, they just said no takeoffs at all. This, of course, had an impact, and I'm sorry to talk about London again, on Heathrow Airport, because there were a number of American Airlines planes ready to go, and a couple of them spent basically an hour and a half waiting to be able to take off. Fortunately, the ground stop was lifted after an hour. But as you'll appreciate, aviation schedules are so complex. Everything is kind of threaded together. The planes which were kept on the ground had all the necessary air traffic control clearances, and of course you hold your aircraft, they're not all suddenly able to take off all at once. So things running slow there, and if you're expecting anybody to come in from the US, well, that they may be a little bit late. Apart from that, Manchester, Edinburgh, Luton, Stansted, Gatwick, Heathrow seem to be doing okay. One more unhappy location, the Channel Islands. We've had a number of diversions, or rather flights from Manchester, from Gatwick, going in to try to land at Jersey, but the fog has been too thick and they've returned to where they started. That is now gradually easing, and British Airways, I understand, has laid on an extra plane from Gatwick to Jersey this evening to try to get people where they need to be. But it's that time of year, Martin. We are so invested in our travels, financially as well as emotionally, that every bit of disruption is very painful.
Simon, very briefly, if we could, you normally go somewhere exotic at Christmas. What's your plans this year, Captain?
Look, I'm afraid I've now learnt from so many years of experience that things are possibly going to unravel. First of all, I don't want to take that risk, and secondly, I might need to be here at GB News reporting on a bit of travel trouble. I very much hope I'm not. Just a reminder, no trains anywhere tomorrow, but actually a lot of domestic flights and lots of long-distance coaches.
Simon Calder, you really are suffering for your art. Not going abroad this year, not wearing your sombrero, not getting your suntan lotion on. In fact, holding the fort at GB News like an absolute trooper. Beautiful stuff, Simon Calder. Always a pleasure, and a very, very Merry Christmas to you. Thank you. There's loads more stuff to come between now and 4 o'clock, including I'll be joined by Britain's meanest granny, a real-life Grinch. She gives us all of her tips and tricks on how not to spend any cash at Christmas. Can you believe it? She spent 80 quid on her daughter and 5 grandkids. How does she do it? I wish I knew. Plus, we're running through some of the best royal looks, the fashion tips, and, of course, a bumper royal year. That's all to come. But first is your latest news headlines, and it's Sam Francis.
Martin, thank you. Good afternoon to you. It's just after 3:30. Well, thousands of migrants are massing along France's northern coast, preparing to cross the Channel over Christmas. Exclusive GB News footage shows hundreds in makeshift camps near Dunkirk, with many more spotted along the coast. Sources say thousands are waiting for calmer weather, expected tonight, with crossings potentially topping 2,000 people in the coming days. Border Force says it is on high alert as smugglers advertise a so-called Christmas special to reach the UK before New Year. Now, this year, more than 35,000 people have crossed the Channel. That's a 20% increase on 2023. Well, let's take a look at the political Christmas messages that have been released in the last few days or so. Looking towards a better and brighter future. That was Sir Keir Starmer's Christmas message, his first as Prime Minister. 6 months into his leadership, he's urging people to look after those around us, with calls for peace in the Middle East. Opposition leader Kemi Badenoch also struck a personal note in hers, calling Christmas her very favourite time of year and thanking the public for their support and kindness. Meanwhile, the Lib Dem leader, Sir Ed Davey, has paid tribute to young carers, sharing his own experience of looking after his sick mother as a child. Police in Brighton are searching for 2 men after the rape of a 19-year-old man in the city. The victim was approached near a restaurant early on the 21st of December before being attacked. He did manage to find help from a passerby and is now being supported by specialist officers. Detectives are urging anyone who saw anything suspicious or recognises the men in newly released images to contact them. And space news for you. NASA's Parker Solar Probe is set to make history this Christmas Eve with the closest ever approach to the Sun. The spacecraft will skim just 3.6 million miles from the star's surface, enduring temperatures of nearly 1,000 degrees and speeds of up to 430,000 miles an hour. Scientists say the mission will uncover secrets about solar activity, help to protect satellites, power grids and astronauts. The spacecraft will then reconnect with Earth on the 27th of December, hopefully having safely completed its record-breaking flyby. Those are the latest headlines for now. I'll be back with you in half an hour.
For the very latest GB News direct to your smartphone, sign up to news alerts by scanning the QR code or go to gbnews.com/alerts.
Hello again and welcome to the latest forecast from the Met Office for GB News. It's very mild out there, just in time for Christmas. A lot of cloud across the UK, but dry for most. So actually, the weather is relatively settled, at least if you're planning any outdoor activities this Christmas. High pressure to the south, a west to southwesterly airflow, that's brought in a lot of cloud. Low-lying cloud that covers the hills in the north and the west and brings some patchy drizzle as well. Some more persistent rain overnight heading into the northwest of Scotland along with a strengthening wind. That wind, though, importing further mild air, and as a result, Christmas morning, temperatures of 9 to 12 Celsius. There will be, though, some brighter weather to be had on Christmas Day, certainly compared with Christmas Eve. You can see some cloud breaks there to the east of Wales, into the Midlands, southern England as well. It's going to be largely dry as we wake up on the big day. So England and Wales mostly fine. Northern Ireland still largely cloudy but dry. Scotland, however, it's going to be windy, particularly to the northwest where we've got some persistent rain, and it's going to stay damp over western hills. Best of the cloud breaks for Scotland, though, northeast Scotland. And where we see these cloud breaks, it will be particularly mild, 12 or 13 Celsius. And actually, not a bad afternoon if you're going for a Christmas walk across much of the UK, but particularly towards the south, where winds will generally be light and there will be some glimmers of brightness from time to time. 12 to 13 Celsius. And the warmest spots will once again be northeast Wales, northeast England, northeast Scotland, where we do get those cloud breaks coming along. Later in the day, a weather front sinks into the north and west of Scotland, bringing wet and windy weather. That will slowly trundle its way southwards, but for the vast majority, it just stays cloudy and mild until the end of the week and the weekend.
The latest GB News travel.
Good afternoon. Hello again to you. I'm Jules Buckley. Queues for the southbound M1 in Leicestershire around the turn-off for Leicester Junction 21. That's the M69. Now, the exit slip coming off southbound there is part blocked and slow. There's been a 4-car collision. Southbound M40 in Oxfordshire remains closed from Tame 8A down to Watlington at 6. Long queues. There's an overturned lorry, but that continues to be recovered. M1 southbound before Flitwick at 12. 2 out of 4 lanes combed off. 2 vehicle collisions causing delays there this afternoon. Slow southbound 2 after Redbourne at 9. There was a broken down lorry, all being sorted now, that issue, but still quite slow. And the clockwise side of the M25 as you approach South Mims at junction 23. Now 2 lanes out of 3 coned off there. There's been a 4 vehicle collision this afternoon. Naturally, it's causing delays. And that's the latest.
You can stay up to date throughout the day by visiting our website, gbnews.com.
Welcome back. Your time is 3:36 with me, Martin Daubney, here on GB News on Christmas Eve. Now, have you found yourself in a flump this Christmas with soaring prices, sky-high mortgages and an economy which is showing no signs of getting any better? Is it time to pack in Christmas altogether? Well, luckily for you, I'm now joined by Emma Parsons-Reid, the woman who's being called Britain's meanest nana, or the Grinch granny. She's saved herself thousands of pounds over the years, according to reports in today's Sun newspaper, by very skillful and, dare I say it, thrifty present buying. Emma, welcome to the show. So apparently it's 400 quid you spent on a spa break for yourself, but you only spent 80 quid on gifts for your daughter and 5 granddaughters. 80 quid for 6 people. How do you do it?
Well, very, very easily, to be honest, Martin. I spend the whole year sourcing tat from charity shops and craft fairs, and if anyone's getting rid of anything, I'll go through a few skips as well. You know, if I'm passing, I'll have a little poke around and see what I can get. I got a very good Etch-a-Sketch from a skip about 3 months ago, so that's gone in the Christmas stocking. It's easy. It's easy to do. You just got to, you know, be mindful. And, you know, the reason I do it, obviously, is because the kids, if I ask them, what did I get you last year? What did anybody get you? They can't remember. So I'm not going to, you know, pay all that money out for presents when they're not even going to remember what I got them.
And Emma, I recall I had you on the show earlier this year, didn't I? When you were Britain's strictest nan. Have you still got that whistle that you blow to keep your kids to jump into a line?
I have. Yeah, I'm off to church shortly, so it's in the car ready. So they line up outside the church. We're off to a children's service for Christmas Eve. So it's all ready to whistle them in and whistle them out again. So we'll be quite the family when we get there.
Emma, I can still hear that whistle now. In fact, the last time on the show, you blew that whistle, do you remember? And I stood up and I ripped all my microphone wires out. And I got.
And I hope you've been a good boy this year, Martin.
I have. I've tried my best. Although, you know, Santa is the one that shall judge me. But on a serious point, I think you're onto something here, because I think a lot of parents just like throw money at the problem. They think they can just buy affection, and especially when you just click and collect, less thought goes into it, less of your heart goes into it. I think you're onto something.
I agree. I think a lot of it is guilt. I think because both parents have to work these days, and it's through no fault of their own. They have to work, and I think they sort of have that bit of extra money, and they sort of appease their guilt by buying lots of stuff that the kids don't really need. You know, I've seen children opening parcel after parcel. They throw it, the next one, and it makes me feel ill watching that. I think it teaches children no values about money. You know, they think that money just literally grows on trees. And I'm really tight with them. And, you know, I've said I will pay for educational things. I will pay for experiences, but I won't pay for plastic rubbish, which will just become landfill. I call it recycling. I mean, if I'm going through a skip and getting some stuff from a skip, like I'd got a trike a few years ago, which my granddaughter loved. My husband cleaned it up. It cost me nothing, but it was recycling. So I'm doing my bit for the planet. Aren't I really?
I tell you what, I can't fault you. I can't fault you. I think you're on something. And you know, the last time you're on the show, I totally agree with you. You know, this time you're on the show, Emma, I totally agree with you again. I think you're wonderful. Keep up your good work, and a very, very Merry Christmas to you. And peace on earth to you. You have a great Christmas with your daughter Hannah and your 5 granddaughters. Thank you very much, Emma Parsons Reid. Let's get back to my panel here. So, Susie? It's a bit of fun. The Sun are calling her the Grinch, but I think she's onto something. You don't need to buy you out of problems all the time, and she's putting her heart into it. I don't quite like the idea of someone's legs hanging out of a skip on Christmas Eve, but, you know... What do you reckon?
No, I mean, I'm similar in that. I mean, this is from a charity shop. You know, I love charity shops. I just think it's amazing because it's like it's you're looking after the environment, you're recycling, you're giving to a good cause. It might be cancer research or Scope or whatever, and then you're getting a real bargain. And you know, I'm buying tops that I probably wouldn't have bought otherwise. But I think it is important, and I think, you know, ultimately, we were just saying, you know, on Christmas Day, you know, we do a lot of like games and whatnot. And actually, the most important thing actually for children is time.
Yeah.
You know, it's giving them that time.
And I wonder, Amma and Bogal, if this is a good way of getting kids off tech. Especially at Christmas, all they seem to do is glue themselves and they emotionally isolate, and getting a board game, getting them involved with some arts and crafts. I mean, it's got to be a winner.
I agree with you, Martin. I think more than that even, I think not just getting them off tech, but teaching our next generation the actual meaning of Christmas and why we're celebrating this great festival. I think if you go and ask a lot of the next generation, well, what is Christmas? They'll say, yeah, we get gifts, we get some time off, we get nice things. But no, it's actually about celebrating the Prince of Peace, Jesus Christ. And I think spending that time with our children, to be able to teach them that. Look, as a Sikh, for Sikhs, the month of December is actually a month of sadness.
Can I ask you a question which a lot of people at GBNews have been asking us, and that is, at my daughter's school, Christmas festival now is called the Winter Festival. It's holidays. In fact, most traces of Christmas were removed, even from a church. As a Sikh, you don't seem to have any problem with embracing the fact that Christmas is Christian, but we do have an issue with that from other faiths in Britain. Why?
Well, I think it's to do with what I call my dharma. What dharma is my duty, and what the natural law that I follow as a Sikh is that, well, look, I am British first. This is a pluralistic society. And if I want to be British first, well, then this is a Christian country. And the roots of our Christian country are in Jesus Christ. Now, I might believe in a different God, but for me, Jesus Christ is the roots and foundations of what has made this country great, and why not celebrate? I mean, as a child in school, I was on the choir. Every Christmas, we'd be down the church for multiple days in the final week of school and singing Christian hymns. I had no issues with that, and I think I would argue, Martin, that the vast majority of non-Christians have no issues at all. We value this country's Christian heritage and traditions. We might not celebrate Christmas for the same exact religious reason, but culturally, yes, absolutely.
OK, Emma Bigger, I think that's an amazing thing, so I'm going to shake you by the hand.
I do. I just want...
That is just great.
I want to second it. Absolutely lovely. And
That's just great.
I think, it's one of the things that people loved about the Queen, that she was just unashamedly, she was a strong Christian, and she spoke about Jesus Christ being the light of the world, and people loved that. And whether they agreed with her or not, they respected it. And I really respect that you've got that.
Wonderful message. Thank you. We have to move on now, because if you're in search of some winter sun, and who can blame you, here's the forecast for some of the top European holiday destinations this year.
Ready to soak up that holiday sunshine?
Won't we need some cover?
No worries. All sorted.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
No snow for the UK this Christmas, but there is across other parts of Europe, particularly across the southeast. Generally fine and sunny for the Canaries on Christmas Day, and across Madeira as well. That will be quite windy here. Plenty of winter sunshine on offer across Iberia, but it will be turning cooler here with the winds coming down from the north. Heavy rain across the Balkans and Italy on Christmas Eve, clearing, but some snow flurries following, and some heavy downpours across Greece and Turkey. Sunny skies in Barcelona, but not very warm.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
This is GB News, Britain's news channel.
Robert Walton has been jet-setting in recent weeks in Singapore for the YYY Awards, and then back to London to host the inaugural Restaurant Association Awards.
Yep, and after many years in the industry, Robert also knows a thing or two about how to create the perfect Christmas, and it's all in the preparation. So we're going to be asking him about that as well. And I'm delighted to say that the godfather of hospitality, Robert Walton, MBE, joins us now on the sofa.
Morning, Robert.
Robert,
Good
so
morning.
good to see you, and what a busy few weeks you have had. Yeah. Should we start with the YYY Awards? Because I think it's just wonderful who you celebrated at those awards.
So, the YYY, young chef, young waiter, young mixologist, and it's a competition that's created around the world, so people from all around the world can apply. So this year we had 9 countries, from India to the Caribbean, from the USA to Scotland and England. And so we had 27 young professionals. The average age was about 24.
Wow.
All coming to Singapore. So we flew everyone to Singapore. We create what I call the Olympic Village. We create a little village for them, and it's in a very cool spot with great bars. And then we have the competition. And this year, I can now announce, I was here just a few weeks ago before we had the competition, that the USA won, which was absolutely incredible. Thailand was second. And gorgeous Wales was third.
Yes. Well done, Wales.
Well done, Wales.
We now expect to have a good meal. There's no reason why you shouldn't have good food. The key now is the service, because there's no reason why you don't have good service. And good service is not that difficult. Smile, to start with. It really isn't that difficult. It's called hospitable. We call the industry, or the sector we look after is the hospitality industry, which is all about being hospitable.
GB News, the People's Channel.
It's Patrick Christie's Tonight, and here we do things differently. It's explaining the absolute madness of this, doesn't it? It's explosive. I mean, this is very good. It's lively.
850. Your government sat there, Sean, and it did nothing.
It's controversial. And the Middle East has been in turmoil since before I was born. It's everything you need to kickstart your evening. Everyone's had their Weetabix tonight. I love to see it. That's Patrick Christie's Tonight, weeknights from 9 p.m. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Camilla Tominey, for a frank and honest discussion with those in power that cuts through the spin and gets to the heart of the issues shaping our nation.
You haven't confirmed that you want to stand as leader, but you haven't ruled it out either.
This report basically says that he's not fit to stand trial. Is he indecisive? Incompetent?
I deliver the dose of reality Westminster needs.
That's the Camilla Tominey Show at 9:30 every Sunday on GB News.
The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back. Your time is 3:48 with me, Martin Daubney, here on GB News. Now, coming up, some of the looks back in the best royal looks of the year. We'll be looking at the fashion of Princess Catherine. But first, here's the Vocal Zone Voice Studio Choir from South Derbyshire with a magnificent rendition of Silent Night. Isn't that magnificent? That and In the Bleak Midwinter, they're always the ones to get me welling up. I was that dad last week filming my daughter at Nativity when she sings those songs. I'm just crying my eyes out. Not ashamed to admit it. It's that time of year. Wonderful stuff. Now, moving on. The Princess of Wales has made just 7 physical public appearances so far in 2024, but each of her outfits have apparently carried huge weight and significance. They each have a meaning. To discuss this now, I'm joined in the studio by GB News' Deputy Royal Editor, Dorothy Reddin. Dorothy, a very, very Merry Christmas to you. Now, by any reckoning, quite a year for Catherine. Of course, that cancer diagnosis earlier in the year, and public very, very much back on her side. And they were so eager for her to reappear in public. And what you're telling us today, Dorothy, is that the outfits that she was wearing carried some significance. So talk us through some of her best looks. I think we're starting, with Wimbledon.
Yes.
Let's try and get the picture on screen. There's one. Talk us through the outfit and what that meant, Dorothy.
Well, so this was Catherine's second public appearance of the year. Her first was at Trooping the Colour, and we could tell she appeared quite nervous. That was her first appearance.
Yeah.
But at Wimbledon, you can see, she was just beaming. And she was supported by her sister, Pippa Matthews, and her daughter, Princess Charlotte. And she was wearing a purple dress from the brand Sophia. And you can tell she just looks absolutely amazing. Yeah. And she received a standing ovation. I think that just went to show how much we missed her.
Yeah, and that came off the back of the course about she'd been getting some awful trolling online, and she defiantly came back. Let's move on now to another outfit. Let's pull one up now and then talk us through what this one is, Dorothy. This is Southport, so this is shortly, of course, after that tragic multiple murder there, and a surprise visit from Wills and Catherine. Talk us through this one.
Well, this was an understated look from Catherine. This was the return to the everyday looks that we didn't really get this year. Most of Catherine's looks this year were evening appearances or quite high-profile appearances, like Trooping the Colour, the Buckingham Palace balcony. This was a very understated appearance. Quite understandably, she was meeting bereaved family members, and she was wearing a burgundy dress and coat and just looked so beautiful but understated at the same time. She knew what she was there for. And she also had a very poignant ring on, which we believe was an eternity ring given to her by Prince William, just showing the support that she's had from the Prince of Wales this year.
It's just magnificent to see her back. And we'll be having a greater look back, a more in-depth look back at the royal year later in the show. Dorothy Redden, GBNews' Deputy Royal Editor, thank you very much. Your debut appearance on GBNews, you absolutely smashed it. Merry Christmas to you. Thank you very, very much indeed. Now stick around, we'll have a look back on who's been a Christmas cracker, who's been a Christmas turkey this year in politics. I'm Martin Dalby, GBNews. Now here's your weather.
Despite the morning rain, it'll be a nice, warm, cosy day ahead. Boxed heat pumps, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Hello again and welcome to the latest forecast from the Met Office for GB News. It's very mild out there, just in time for Christmas. A lot of cloud across the UK, but dry for most. So actually, the weather is relatively settled, at least if you're planning any outdoor activities this Christmas. High pressure to the south, a west to southwesterly airflow, that's brought in a lot of cloud. Low-lying cloud that covers the hills in the north and the west and brings some patchy drizzle as well. Some more persistent rain overnight heading into the northwest of Scotland, along with a strengthening wind. That wind, though, importing further mild air, and as a result, Christmas morning, temperatures of 9 to 12 Celsius. There will be, though, some brighter weather to be had on Christmas Day, certainly compared with Christmas Eve. You can see some cloud breaks there to the east of Wales, into the Midlands, southern England as well. It's going to be largely dry as we wake up on the big day. So England and Wales mostly fine. Northern Ireland still largely cloudy but dry. Scotland, however, it's going to be windy, particularly to the northwest where we've got some persistent rain, and it's going to stay damp over western hills. Best of the cloud breaks for Scotland, though, northeast Scotland. And where we see these cloud breaks, it will be particularly mild, 12 or 13 Celsius. And actually, not a bad afternoon if you're going for a Christmas walk across much of the UK, but particularly towards the south, where winds will generally be light and there will be some glimmers of brightness from time to time. 12 to 13 Celsius. And the warmest spots will once again be northeast Wales, northeast England, northeast Scotland, where we do get those cloud breaks coming along. Later in the day, a weather front sinks into the north and west of Scotland, bringing wet and windy weather. That will slowly trundle its way southwards, but for the vast majority, it just stays cloudy and mild until the end of the week and the weekend.
There will be a light breeze in the morning, leading to a warm front. Boxed heat pumps, sponsors of weather on GB News.
The latest GB News travel.
Good afternoon, I'm Jules Buckley. The southbound M1, a lane closed on the entry slip as you come on at Meadowhall Junction 34. So we're seeing queues is because of a broken down vehicle. Queues too in Leicestershire on the southbound M1. There was a collision around the turn off the M69, that's junction 21. That's been shifted safely to the hard shoulder. We're still seeing delays though. Issues continue in Lincolnshire. The A15 closed both ways between Curtin Road in Waddingham and Caneby Corner. And of course we're seeing queues at the scene of a 3-vehicle bump there. Gloucestershire, congestion northbound M5, Thornbury 14 up to Stroud 13, a lane shut at the scene of a collision there. And quite slow in Westminster around Whitehall. That is all due to an earlier police incident. So we're all back on the move now, although very slow going between Trafalgar Square and Parliament Square this afternoon. That's the latest.
You can stay up to date throughout the day by visiting our website, gbnews.com.
Imagine getting the call to tell you that you've won £50,000 in tax-free cash, our biggest cash prize of the year.
Oh my God.
Luck.
Good Afternoon Britain isn't just about us. The wonderful thing about this programme is it's about everyone watching. It's an interactive programme.
Well, there absolutely is something to see here, and we're going to be talking about it more.
Whether it's breaking royal news, Will, please bring us up to date, or indeed a particularly punchy speech in the House of Commons.
Very, very curious.
We bring it to you live, and then we bring you live reaction as well.
That's Good Afternoon Britain, weekdays from midday.
Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Hi there, I'm Michelle Dewberry and I'm going to take a second to tell you all about my show, Dubes & Co. We start off with the issues of the day. We then bring in both sides of the argument. We get rid of the disrespect. And then you throw me into the mix. And trust me, I'll tell it exactly how it is. And then, of course, the magic ingredient, you at home. We mix it all together and what have we got, in my opinion, the best debate show in town. Monday to Friday, 6 till 7 on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Hello to you, and I hope you're having a wonderful Christmas Eve. It's 4 p.m. and welcome to the Martin Daubney Show. We're broadcasting for you live from the heart of Westminster and all across the country. Thanks very much for joining me today. Now, it's fair to say it's been a tumultuous year in British politics. From Rishi's things can only get wetter general election announcement in the pounding rain, followed by two-tier Keir, free gear Keir, never here Keir, and Starmer the farmer harmer to the rise of reform. On the nights before Christmas, I'll be asking, who's had a Christmas cracker and which turkeys have had a year to forget? And Britain is bracing itself for a record-breaking Christmas day of an unlikely and perhaps unwanted kind, as thousands of illegal immigrants are poised to arrive on dinghies from France. Labour promised to smash the gangs, but the evil people smugglers never stop, not even at Christmas. And a new list of woke topics to avoid at the Christmas dinner table this year has been published. Sadly, woke no-go zones include all of my favourite dinner table favourites, such as politics, gender, immigration, climate change and moaning about woke Christmas adverts. It's enough to drive you to drink, but as luck would have it, in today's show, I'll be bringing you the ultimate Christmas Day wine guide. I'll be getting sozzled with a sommelier. That's all coming in your next hour. Welcome to the show. Well, if you timed it right, you're just settling down now with a cup of tea or perhaps something a wee bit stronger. You've got your Christmas presents all safely wrapped, tucked under the tree. You're feeling smug. Well, if you're anything like me, you listen to this on your iPhone as you're dashing around trying to get those last-minute bargains. Who have forgotten this year? Well, I end up spending the entire Christmas period in the doghouse. Are you all sorted out this year? Or are you just like me, leaving it till the last minute? I've still got to get back to the West Country straight after this show. And I want to ask you this. If you could invite 3 people, anybody, living or passed away, to join you for your dream Christmas dinner, who would they be? I'll go first. I'll go for Donald Trump. I'll go for Brian Clough, my all-time hero, the Nottingham Forest football manager, and Lemmy from Motorhead. What a party that would be. Who would be your trio? I'll be asking my panel for theirs soon. But before all of that, it's your headlines, and here's Sam Francis.
Martin, thank you, and very good afternoon to you. It's just coming up to 3 minutes past 4. Thousands of migrants are gathering along France's northern coast, preparing to cross the Channel as weather conditions are set to improve on Christmas Day tomorrow. Exclusive GB News footage shows hundreds at camps near Dunkirk, with thousands more spread along a 50-mile stretch towards Calais and Boulogne. Smugglers are offering so-called Christmas specials for crossings, with UK and French authorities bracing for a surge of people over the next 5 days. Border Force says it is on heightened alert as strong winds are set to ease overnight, allowing for more crossings. More than 35,000 migrants have made the journey so far this year. That's 20% higher than last year's total. Sir Keir Starmer is under fire for planning to jet abroad over New Year after spending Christmas at Chequers with his family. Sir Keir Starmer is coming under fire over those plans after he has already spent more than 170 hours travelling abroad. He decided to make that plan with his family ahead of the Christmas period. Looking towards a brighter and better future, that is the Prime Minister's Christmas message, his first in power. 6 months into his leadership, he's urging people to look after those around us, with calls for peace in the Middle East. Opposition leader Kemi Badenoch struck a personal note calling Christmas her very favourite time of year and thanked the public for support and kindness. Lib Dem leader Sir Ed Davey also paid tribute to young carers in his message, sharing his own experience of looking after his sick mother as a child. Police in Brighton are searching for 2 men after the rape of a 19-year-old man in the city. The victim was approached near a restaurant early on the 21st of December before being attacked. He later sought help from a passerby and is being supported by specialist officers. Detectives are urging anyone who saw anything suspicious or recognises the man in newly released images to contact them. Let's turn to some international news for you now. And protests have erupted in Syria after a Christmas tree was burned in a Christian-majority region of the country. Footage online shows masked men setting the tree alight, sparking outrage as protesters took to the streets in Damascus, the Syrian capital, with some chanting against foreign fighters. Tahrir al-Sham, the Islamist group now in power, blamed foreign fighters and pledged to protect minority rights, detaining several over the incident. The groups also promised the tree will be repaired, holding up a cross in an unprecedented gesture of solidarity. It comes as Syria faces uncertainty under new Islamist rule following the fall of Bashar al-Assad's decades-long regime. Back here at home, an investigation is now underway after a passenger's hand became trapped in the doors of an Elizabeth Line train, forcing them to run alongside the moving train before being freed. The incident at Ealing Broadway left the passenger with minor injuries and has raised fresh concerns about the safety of the line. The Rail Accident Investigation Branch is examining what went wrong, and it follows a string of similar incidents, including passengers dragged by London Underground trains when clothing became caught in closing doors. Calls for safety improvements like better door technology and platform adjustments have been growing since the £18 billion line opened in 2022. And finally, before I hand you back to Martin in Westminster, there has been more Christmas Eve frustration for Morrison's customers today, with deliveries late or even cancelled, and it comes more than 24 hours after a previous system glitch first disrupted orders. Yesterday's chaos on the busiest day for grocery shopping of the year left shoppers waiting for deliveries worth hundreds of pounds. Morrison's has apologised but hasn't revealed the cause of the problem, despite repeated requests. The supermarket says it's determined not to let a single customer down this Christmas. Those are the latest headlines for now. I'll be back with you in half an hour. Now, though, it's over to Martin.
For the very latest GB News direct to your smartphone, sign up to News Alerts by scanning the QR code or go to gbnews.com/alerts.
Thank you, Sam. Now, it's the night before Christmas, but of course we never stop here at GB News, and it's fair to say it's been a hugely eventful year in British politics. We've seen the fall of the Conservatives after 14 long years in power. Nigel Farage took over as Reform UK's leader, and they amassed some 4 million votes, all of which helped to project Labour into power, depending on how you look at it. Let's take a look back at some of the highlights of what a tumultuous year in British politics has been.
Earlier today, I spoke with His Majesty the King to request the dissolution of Parliament. The King has granted this request, and we will have a general election on the 4th of July.
So I promise this: a new mindset, mission government, an understanding at the core of everything we do.
2024, the year the voters finally get to pack up this awful, out-of-touch Conservative government.
But I hope and believe we can get a cohort of MPs in Westminster so that we can be the voice of opposition.
We did it! You campaigned for it, you fought for it, you voted for it, and now it has arrived. Change begins now.
Only 5 months ago, seems like a lifetime ago, and thank the Lord, Ed Davey wasn't wearing any lycra. But fast forward 5 months, and we've had some highs and quite a lot of lows under Sir Keir Starmer, from the budget backlash to extra funding for the NHS. But in the past hour, we heard from the Prime Minister's Christmas message, hoping for peace to all, especially, of course, in the Middle East. Well, what shall we hear now from some other political leaders and see if they did any better? Here's a new Conservative leader, Kemi Badenoch.
Message to everyone this Christmas is have a happy one, but also remember all of the people who might be in your community or even in your family who need your support, and let's not forget them either. And I'm looking forward to 2025. I wish you all the very best for the new year.
Was that a real background or was that superimposed? Anyway, it was good tree. And let's see now what the Liberal Democrat leader Ed Davey had to say, hopefully not wearing any lycra.
Of everyone at the Liberal Democrats, can I wish you and your family a very Merry Christmas. I hope you're enjoying this wonderful time of year with your loved ones, the lights, the gifts, the songs.
A rather sorry-looking tree there next to Ed Davey. Look, let's dig into some of those key moments now with John Rentoul, the chief political commentator at The Independent. John, very, very Merry Christmas to you. I hope you're having a great time, and thanks for all you've done for us this year at GB News. Let's cast an eye back. It only seems like a bat of an eyelid ago that the general election happened. It started with things that only get wetter. Who had the umbrella? Surely put the umbrella up. I still cannot believe that he got so dripping wet on Downing Street. What a tumultuous, basic schoolboy error. And yet here we are now. The Labour Party swept that massive landslide, John, and yet all isn't quite as rosy as it maybe appear. As we approach Christmas, can we do an end-of-year report for the Labour Party, perhaps?
Yeah, no, I assumed that there would be some kind of honeymoon. There was a very, very brief moment, maybe a week or two, and Keir Starmer dealt with the riots following the Southport killings reasonably well, I thought, although a lot of people didn't like it. But since then, it's gone horribly wrong, that clip of him saying, we've done it and we're going to achieve change, does seem to be slightly overclaiming the difference that a Labour government has made.
And I think, John, when you look at the pictures on screen there, normally you get a honeymoon period. Normally you get a silly season after an election, everything quietens down. That didn't happen this year, of course. We saw those riots in Southport after the horrific murders there, and it just got busier and busier and busier. We can see now pictures of people being arrested. I believe that's in London, but it happened across many towns in the wake of those riots. And then we saw this police clamp down, and that led to the first of many nicknames for Keir Starmer. This one, of course, was two-tier Keir. Do you think that was fair? You say most people seem happy with the way he reacted, but a lot of people thought he came down pretty hard, especially jailing people for things like Facebook posts.
No, for things like throwing bricks at mosques, Martin. I mean, you know, let's be clear about this. No, I don't think the two-tier Keir thing is at all fair. I think, you know, obviously sentencing decisions and prosecution decisions are independent of government. They tend to be inconsistent. People notice the ones that they don't like and don't agree with, such as the woman who threw a milkshake at Nigel Farage. Got off with a non-custodial sentence, but actually, if you look at, you know, that's completely the norm. I mean, if you look at that person who cracked an egg on John Prescott's head in 2001, you know, no charges followed that. Someone through green custard.
Jeremy Corbyn got egged, and someone got 18 months for it.
Yeah, well, exactly, but that's the inconsistent one. Everyone's going on about how this woman who did Nigel Farage was inconsistent. Absolutely not. She's got community service time and goodness knows what else, and an £800 in fines and compensation. She was actually dealt with reasonably. It's the chap who threw an egg at Jeremy Corbyn. Was it 2019? About 5 years ago, who got a 28-day jail sentence. I mean, So
there you go. You're proving two-tier justice. If you go after a lefty, you get porridge. If you go after Nigel Farage, you get a slap on the wrist. You're proving the point.
I'm proving that there is inconsistent sentencing, and that one was out of line. John Prescott and Peter Mandelson, no charges brought in those cases. The woman who threw the milkshake over Nigel Farage actually was dealt with quite severely.
OK, what about the next nickname, Free Gear Keir? Because we were told, weren't we, that these kind of cronyism, Lord Alley getting free designer shades, specs, suits, handbags for the missus. We were told this kind of stuff would end in the Labour Party. It didn't stop. It got worse.
Well, we knew about this before the election. This was the extraordinary thing, is that the spectacles were paid for by Wahid Ali before the election and all declared and everything. Nobody batted an eyelid until he was given a pass to number 10 after the election, and then suddenly people got very excited about it. I think it's completely indefensible, totally wrong. I don't think Keir Starmer should have done any of it, but it is extraordinary how these issues just sort of blow up at different times, and I say public opinion is quite inconsistent about these things.
And what about the next one, Never Hear Keir? Is it fair? I mean, he's off on another jolly. I think he's got more air miles than Richard Branson. Is it fair to say that he's spending an awful lot of time mid-air rather than on terra firma here sorting out stuff in Britain?
Too much time. I mean, I agree. I think he failed to learn the lessons from people like Tony Blair, who told him, don't let the foreign affairs people to take control of your diary, because those foreign trips bring you no benefit, no dividend in public opinion back home. Stay at home, concentrate on the stuff. I mean, he had a trip to Norway and then Estonia. I mean, yes, show solidarity with the Baltic states against Vladimir Putin's aggression and all that, but a trip to Norway could have been an email.
Yeah, or it could have been done on Zoom, the way we were told to do it all the way through lockdowns. You know what, thank you very much for joining us today. John Rentoul, a very, very Merry Christmas to you, and thanks for coming on the show so often this year. I hope to see a lot more of you in 2025. Thank you very much, mate. Cheers. Now, still joined with by my panel in the studio, Susie Stride, the political commentator and Labour Party activist, and the Conservative commentator, Aman Bogal. Let's go back to you guys. Now, Aman, shall we start with you? We've been talking a lot about the Labour Party, Keir Starmer. Let's talk about the Conservative Party. Kemi Badenoch there. I think she looks superimposed onto that background. I could be wrong, but nevertheless, she's Putting on a defiant face at Christmas, I want to ask you a very straightforward question. Did the Conservative Party pick the wrong leader in Kemi Badenoch?
Look, I think, Martin, I respect Kemi for putting herself up and forward for this leadership because it has been tough times for the Conservative Party. And, good luck to her for what she's hoping to try and achieve. But having said that, look, she only became an MP in 2017. I think she's not simply got the experience within Westminster and in politics to be leading the Conservatives back into the role to take on this failing Labour Party. Let's be honest. They got, Starmer, for his sandcastle majority, got less votes than Corbyn did in 19. His polling is down in the dumps. He's cancelled democracy with the cancelling of the local elections coming up in May because he knows that reform are hoovering up not just Conservative votes, but a lot of the Labour votes.
Who do you think should have got the position? Because a lot of people are saying that if Robert Jenrick had got the position, that may have neutralised the rise of reform, a more reformy type character. If you like. Is it as simple as that? Is it as straightforward as that?
I think it's a mix of things, Martin. I would argue that, look, most people around Britain are looking for the Conservatives to be conservative and the Labour Party to offer an actual Labour alternative and to be genuine. And that's where reform are coming in with someone like Nigel Farage, filling in that gap in the market of being genuine, being authentic. He's promising what he's saying and he's saying what he's promising. He means what he says and says what he means. It's quite simple. So if Robert Jenrick had come in, I think even now Jenrick is trying to say a lot of the things that the people care about and it's having some traction. He's got a new show on GBNews covering crime that is afflicting our streets.
Nigel Farage would say it, wouldn't he? But he says that nobody trusts the Conservatives anymore, particularly after over 1 million came in, net immigration consistently. Yes. Is that fair to say, or is there a way back for the Conservatives?
I think it's a very fair thing to say. And I would argue, Martin, having been on the inside of the Conservative Party machine, that all roads lead to the Conservative Candidates Department. For 14 years, well, for more than 14 years, we've had the A-list imposed on local associations. We've had people parachuted in who have no idea. And it's the same thing, by the way, on the other side with Labour. People coming out of university, being a bag carrier for a minister or a shadow minister, no relation whatsoever with the grassroots, and getting to be ministers and MPs. And that's what afflicting our democracy right now. And that's where I think, look, I'm a great believer in free market economics and also in free competition. Yeah. If reform want to bring in this competition, it's a good thing for our democracy.
Susie Stride, let's bring you in now. Nigel Farage has said he's now gunning for Labour votes. There are like 98 seats where reform came second, and actually a lot of them could be ministerial seats. They seem to be on a march. Is the Labour Party concerned about Nigel Farage, or actually are you trying to neutralise him, for example, by getting him to advise Peter Mandelson, the new US ambassador?
I don't think he's going to be advising Peter Mandelson. We had this discussion a couple of days back because I think, look, Mandelson is very capable, 5 decades experience in
But he called Trump
politics.
a fascist.
And J.D. Vance called him the Hitler of America. And we know that Trump
Do you think if tariffs are on the table, that tariffs against the United Kingdom are more or less likely if Nigel Farage is on that team?
I think it's very important that you bring that up because I think it is absolutely crucial that we do everything in our power.
More or less likely?
Well, I just say absolutely important to do everything in our power to get on the good side of Trump, as it were, to make sure that doesn't happen.
So therefore,
but I think,
Nigel Farage is useful to the Labour Party.
But I think Mandelson is going to be able to build those relationships. I think he's a strong negotiator. He's got 5 decades worth of experience, and in politics, not 10 years, 5 decades. And as you know, we know this about Trump. I've said this before. He loves the royal family. He loves that thing about the Brits, and our traditions. And you've got someone like Madison, great-grandfather. His grandfather was in the Attlee post-war government, served alongside Churchill. I think all of that Trump's going to like, and I think he's got the strength to do it.
Back to the question: are the Labour Party worried about reform, and should they be?
I think it is absolutely right that any opponent that is doing well, which Reform are, that we take very seriously. And I've said this a number of times. You have to be humble, but you also have to listen to what the British people are saying. And the British people are saying that one of their top issues, alongside the NHS, is also their concerns about immigration. And we can't then say to them, oh, you're wrong. We have to listen to that. I do think Keir Starmer is listening to that. You know, record numbers of people being deported back.
There's thousands on the beaches in Calais as we speak.
He's called...
And Armada's waiting to land on Christmas Day.
He's called...
But the fact is you can't not say that Keir Starmer isn't taking this seriously. That Yvette Cooper is not.
Man the channel.
Do you know what? Can I say something? The Labour government have deported more people back to their home countries.
It's not the Labour government.
Have made more deals with home countries like Iraq, like Vietnam. You know, making sure that actually people don't leave the countries in the first place.
But the boats are still commenced.
I'm sorry, but the Conservatives cannot say anything on this. They just need to be quiet. 3 times.
Forget about the Conservatives. Forget about the Conservatives. The Labour Party are in power. We just had a report on GB News from Mark White. There are thousands of people on the beaches of northern France waiting to come on Christmas Day. Labour's in power. You can't blame the Tories. What are they going to do about it?
No, what I'm saying is the Tories can't lecture us on it because of immigration trebled under them.
It's not the
Tories. Keir Starmer has been in 5 months, and what has he done in 5 months? He's met with the Italian Prime Minister. We're learning some of the lessons of what they've done. He's building relationships with these key countries, which Rishi Sunak never did. And we're making deals with those countries to make sure that people don't leave those countries in the first place.
Rishi Sunak did exactly the same stuff as the Keir Starmer is doing. He went to see exactly the same leaders. None of that worked either. That's the point.
No, he did not. He did not form those deals that Keir Starmer is forming.
Of course he did.
He did not deport. We have deported 40%. That is the rise in people being deported home. Let's celebrate some of those things that are going on, shall we?
Let's break this down. We've had the sort of human rights lawyer activist types like Keir Starmer and his company that have been fighting against every single plane on the runway that has tried to deport people. The Labour Party voted 132 times against the Rwanda plan. OK, let's be honest here, Martin. The very simple fact is he promised to smash the gangs. He hasn't.
Well, the gangs aren't. Listen, we have to move on, Susie and Aman. And Mark White will indeed be joining us with that precise report shortly about the thousands amassed on the northern beaches of France. But first, it's time now for our biggest and greatest Great British giveaway this year. And your chance to win 50 grand in tax-free cash in time for Christmas. It's the biggest cash prize we've ever given away, and it could be yours. And here's the details that you need to try and trouser it.
It's the biggest, greatest Great British giveaway so far, with your chance to win a spectacular £50,000 in tax-free cash. 2025 could
We're proud to be GB News, the People's Channel, and as you know, we always love to hear your views. Now, there's a new way of getting in touch with us at gbnews.com/your-say. By commenting, you can be part of a live conversation and join our GB News community. You can even talk to me, Bev Turner, or any of the members of the GB News family.
This is GB News, Britain's news channel.
Now, our next guests have been working closely with celebrities and MPs to help clean up
our planet.
Very important. Think Ocean was founded in 2021 with two main goals. One, educating the next generation to make sure that they know when they're growing up that naturally we have to take care of the planet, and cleaning pollution that's already in the environment.
Well, joining us now to tell us more is Think Ocean's founder, Hugo Valdez-Vera, and the co-founder, Nolene Mariappan. Really good
morning,
to see you both this morning. So, Nolene, let's start with you. What is Think Ocean, and why did you want to start this back in 2021?
Yes, so Hugo had actually been working on the environment and climate action for quite a long time. When he moved to the UK, he realised that there was a growing problem with plastic pollution and that more needed to be done because people weren't actually seeing the link between plastic, the impact on the environment and climate change. So he founded the organisation and I joined him with three goals, really. Education, looking at technology to scale solutions, and looking at how we develop more circular economy programs. So actually looking at reusing, recycling, actually creating local economies from what people would consider waste.
Hugo, just how bad is plastic pollution around the world, and especially here in the UK?
Well, it is bad, but we don't know the extent of how bad it is. You know, this is not much interest from the bigger players or, some government for us to know every detail of the pollution. So if we know that is from 1 to 10 is 2, probably it's about 6.
Oh.
GB News, the People's Channel.
In the GB Newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK.
We're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News.
The People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
I'm Christopher Hope. From pop stars to politicians, I'll interview anybody in a pub who's got a political opinion. Join me every Friday on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube or gbnews.com, or wherever you get your podcasts. This is GB News, the People's Channel.
Welcome back. It's 4:28 on Christmas Eve. I'm Martin Daubney on GB News. Now, you're now for a GB News exclusive because thousands of migrants are massing along the northern coast of France, preparing to cross the UK on Christmas Day. And I'm joined now by GB News' Homeland Security Editor, Mark White. Mark, this is a Christmas present very, very few people watching this show will be wanting to get a hold of. Christmas Day. It seems that they never take a day off.
No, they don't, and we know because we talk about this constantly. Every time the weather improves, then more boats get shoved out into the English Channel. And we've been told that Border Force is on high alert for a run of good days, not just tomorrow, but some 5 to 6 days of conditions where the winds will be very light indeed. So ideal, although it's cold out there, but ideal conditions in terms of being able to cross, because there will be very little in the way of wind, and therefore the waves in the middle of the channel will be very little as well. So that's ideal weather for the boats to come across. And what we are expecting is thousands potentially to come across during that window in the weather. We sent our Kent producer across to France today with the news of this red alert that the Border Force is now on, and that you're seeing the images there is what he saw along the coast of northern France. Now, this is a place called Grand Cinth, which is near Dunkirk. Just one camp alone had more than 500 people in that camp. He saw hundreds of others in the roads around Dunkirk. There are multiple camps in the Dunkirk area. Then you go further down the coast around the Calais area, more camps as far down as the Boulogne area. Thousands, not just hundreds hundreds, but thousands are now massing along the northern coast of France. Normally, many of the migrants are further inland. They wait for the word from the people smugglers that their turn is coming up for the boats, and then arrangements are made to get them to the locations along that coast where they'll meet up with their boats. And as I say, the first of these small boats expected either overnight tonight or into tomorrow morning.
And Mark White, the record for a Christmas day, I believe, was in 2022, but that was a mere 90 arrivals. 2021, 67. 2018, 45 arrivals. These are drops in the ocean compared to the numbers you're talking about here. And this will be a nightmare at Christmas for Sir Keir Starmer, because we've heard endless talk about downstream deals, about smashing the gangs, about talking to the people in Vietnam, talking to the people in Iraq. None of it seems to be working, Mark White. The people smuggling gangs are simply not getting the memo.
No, I was listening to your conversation with one of your guests just a few minutes ago, and, you know, she's right to an extent that, of course, anything that Sir Keir Starmer implements is likely to take some significant time before it comes fully to fruition. But on the other hand, you know, with the deals, the so-called deals that are being hatched with these countries around the globe, they were being hatched under Rishi Sunak as well. They're not necessarily, in fact, the vast majority are not deals to return people to those countries, but there are deals which is effectively a bit better cooperation between law enforcement agencies. Another issue that the government increasingly points to when they're asked about what they're doing, given that the numbers coming across the channel have increased significantly since Labour came to power. And they've been pointing to the fact that under Labour they have returned some 13,000 people back to their home countries. This is completely disingenuous. 5% of those 13,000 people are people that arrived on small boats. The vast majority are people that were visa overstayers, that got into the country by other means, foreign national offenders as well, having served their sentence and being returned to their own countries. A tiny proportion of those people that are being returned and that are being hailed as a triumphant enterprise by the government, a tiny percentage, just 5%, are people that came across on small boats, Martin.
Mark White, forensic analysis as ever. You've been magnificent this year, my friend. Thank you very, very much, and a very, very Merry Christmas to you, Mark White. Excellent. There's loads more still to come between now and 5 o'clock, including we'll be digging in some budget blues on the high street. Plus, are you unfortunate enough to be looking forward to a woke Christmas? But first, here's your headlines with Sam Francis.
Very good afternoon, 33 minutes past 4. Well, as we were just hearing from Mark White there, thousands of migrants are gathering along France's northern coast, preparing to cross the Channel as weather conditions are set to improve tomorrow on Christmas Day. Exclusive GB News footage shows hundreds at camps near Dunkirk, with thousands more spread along a 50-mile stretch towards Calais and Boulogne. Smugglers are offering so-called Christmas specials for crossings, with UK and French authorities bracing for what could be a surge over the next 5 days. Border Force says it's on heightened alert as strong winds are set to ease overnight, allowing for more crossings. More than 35,000 migrants have made the journey so far this year. That's 20% higher than last year's entire total. An investigation is underway after a passenger's hand became trapped in the doors of an Elizabeth Line train, forcing them to run alongside the moving train before eventually being freed. The incident at Ealing Broadway left the passenger with minor injuries and has raised fresh concerns about safety on the line. The Rail Accident Investigation Branch is now examining what went wrong, and it follows a string of similar incidents, including passengers being dragged by London Underground trains when their clothing became caught in closing doors. Calls for safety improvements like better technology and platform adjustments have been growing since the £18 billion line opened in May 2022. Protests have erupted in Syria after a Christmas tree was burned in a Christian-majority region of the country. Footage showed masked men setting the tree alight, sparking outrage. Protesters have taken now to the streets in Damascus, with some chanting against foreign fighters. Tahrir al-Sham, the Islamist group now in power, blamed foreign fighters and pledged to protect minority rights. The groups also promised the tree would be repaired, holding up a cross in an unprecedented gesture of solidarity. It comes as Syria faces uncertainty under new Islamist rule following the fall of Bashar al-Assad's decades-long regime. And NASA's Parker Solar Probe is set to make history this Christmas Eve with the closest ever approach to the Sun. The spacecraft will skim just 3.6 million miles from the star's surface, enduring temperatures of nearly 1,000 degrees and speeds of up to 430,000 miles an hour. Scientists say the mission will uncover secrets about solar activity, helping to protect satellites, power grids and even astronauts. The spacecraft will then reconnect with Earth on the 27th of December, after hopefully safely completing that record-breaking flyby. Those are the latest headlines for now. A full roundup at 5 o'clock, and Martin will be straight back after this break.
For the very latest GB News direct to your smartphone, sign up to news alerts by scanning the QR code or go to gbnews.com/alerts.
Hello again and welcome to the latest forecast from the Met Office for GB News. It's very mild out there, just in time for Christmas. A lot of cloud across the UK, but dry for most. So actually, the weather is relatively settled, at least if you're planning any outdoor activities this Christmas. High pressure to the south, a west to southwesterly airflow, that's brought in a lot of cloud. Low-lying cloud that covers the hills in the north and the west and brings some patchy drizzle as well. Some more persistent rain overnight heading into the northwest of Scotland along with a strengthening wind. That wind, though, importing further mild air, and as a result, Christmas morning, temperatures of 9 to 12 Celsius. There will be, though, some brighter weather to be had on Christmas Day, certainly compared with Christmas Eve. You can see some cloud breaks there to the east of Wales, into the Midlands, southern England as well. It's going to be largely dry as we wake up on the big day. So England and Wales mostly fine. Northern Ireland still largely cloudy but dry. Scotland, however, it's going to be windy, particularly to the northwest where we've got some persistent rain, and it's going to stay damp over western hills. Best of the cloud breaks for Scotland, though, northeast Scotland. And where we see these cloud breaks, it will be particularly mild, 12 or 13 Celsius. And actually, not a bad afternoon if you're going for a Christmas walk across much of the UK, but particularly towards the south, where winds will generally be light and there will be some glimmers of brightness from time to time. 12 to 13 Celsius. And the warmest spots will once again be northeast Wales, northeast England, northeast Scotland, where we do get those cloud breaks coming along. Later in the day, a weather front sinks into the north and west of Scotland, bringing wet and windy weather. That will slowly trundle its way southwards, but for the vast majority, it just stays cloudy and mild until the end of the week and the weekend.
The latest GB News travel.
Good afternoon. Hello, I'm Jules Buckley. There's some queues for the southbound M1 in West Yorkshire this afternoon. Junction 40 Ossett down towards Wakefield and Durkar, junction 39. Now, a lane shut there. There's a breakdown, and that's what's causing those delays there this afternoon. Elsewhere, the southbound M40 in Oxfordshire. Now, one of 3 lanes is combed off for emergency barrier repairs. It's on the stretch between Tame at 7 and Watlington at 6. It's naturally causing queues heading past and on the approach as well. A15 in Lincolnshire closed both ways for investigation work. No way through between Waddingham and Caneby Corner. And the M48 Severn Bridge westbound, so heading towards Wales, there's a breakdown there. It's in the roadworks. A lane closure has now been put in place. And looking at the live cameras, that's just starting to cause 1 or 2 delays there this afternoon too. And for now, that's the latest.
You can stay up to date throughout the day by visiting our website, gbnews.com.
Welcome back. Merry Christmas Eve. It's 4:39 with me, Martin Daubney, here on GB News. Now, during Advent, as we count down, of course, now only one more sleep till Christmas Day, we're hearing from church ministers across the country. Each day they have a special message for you to celebrate the festive season, and here's the final one on Christmas Eve.
The GB News Advent Calendar, Day
24.
My name is Marjorie and I'm a minister in the north of England. Since the beginning of time, the world has known two contrasting realities, light and darkness, day and night. And as humans, we are drawn to the light. The darkness feels vulnerable and it's very disorientating to suddenly find yourself in pitch darkness. In the account of the Christmas story, we hear that the light shone in the darkness and the darkness did not comprehend it. And throughout his life on earth, many people did not recognize Jesus for who he was, the light of the world. Some were confused and bewildered, and for some, he was not the king they imagined. Others were simply lost in their own darkness and missed the reality of who was in their midst. We live in a culture that is very spiritually hungry, yet the source of spiritual light is very important. Jesus says that he is the light of the world. That is the exclusive source of all that is good, light and life to us. At this Christmas time, let us remember, just as the shepherds followed the star, and recognize our need of a Saviour who offers such light to this dark world.
You know, I think they've just been wonderful. I just think they've been so good, you know, all 24 of them throughout the season. I'm so proud of what we've done with them here at GBNews. And I'm not especially what I would call a person of faith, but I grew up going to church. I grew up singing Christmas carols. I grew up every morning at school singing hymns. And I just think it's a tremendous part of what bonds us as a society, those Christian values. And we shouldn't forget that we're a Christian nation. And you can watch all of those special Advent messages as the big day approaches tomorrow by going to gbnews.com/Advent. And a very, very Merry Christmas to you. Now, to make it even more Christmassy, here's the South Derbyshire's Vocal Zone Voice Studio with their magnificent rendition. And get your Kleenex at the ready. It's Joy to the World.
Joy to the world, the Lord is come. Let earth receive the King. Let every heart prepare him room. And heaven and nature sing, and heaven and nature sing, and heaven and nature sing. Joy to the earth, the Saviour reigns. Let us and songs and joy, what fields and floods, what fields and plains. Repeat the sounding joy, repeat the sounding joy, repeat the sounding joy. He rules the world with truth and grace, and makes the nations prove the glories of his righteousness, and wonders of his love, and wonders of his love, and wonders of his love.
Magnificent stuff. Now let's get a quick reaction from my panel, Susie Stride and Aman Bogle. Susie, first, does that bring a tear to your grizzled eye?
I wouldn't say it brings a tear, but that's one of my favourite carols, as is Oh Holy Night. And I think it is. It's, it is a very powerful thing because all this stuff going on in the world and there's like lots of sadness and lots of stress. But actually, again, as a Christian, there's something very beautiful about being like there's someone bigger holding it all that we can rest in and trust in and trust that there is hope and there are good things to come and that we don't have to worry about all these things, which is the great message of Christmas, do not fear.
And Aman Bogle, you spoke so wonderfully earlier in the show about as a proud Sikh, how you identify and respect the fact that this is a Christian nation and carols are just the most joyous way of joining us all together, especially at this holy time.
Absolutely. I mean, first of all, I think GBNews is to be congratulated that as Britain's primary news channel, it's done such a wonderful job of covering Christmas and making it actually Christmassy. But more than that, I think this certainly reminded me of my days back at school when I used to be in the choir and back at the church, Jesus singing Jesus Christ Superstar and all the rest of it. But one of my favourite hymns is Abide With Me. And I think Look, Christianity has a serious message of peace, of love, of brotherliness, of neighbourliness, and I think that's what we as a country ought to be projecting out there to the rest of the world.
Magnificent stuff. Thank you very, very much. Now, thousands are set to flood the streets today, the high streets, to get the final gifts for the big day. Check this out. Our North West of England reporter Sophie Reaper has been reporting from Bolton High Street.
There are now just a few hours to go until the big day tomorrow, and people up and down the UK will be flooding our high streets as they use those last few hours to get in some last-minute shopping. Now, it's been forecast that this Christmas, Brits will be spending around £88.3 billion on Christmas, whether that's presents, whether it's decorations, whether it's food. But last year, last-minute shopping was down by around a third, so it does seem that Brits are perhaps getting more organised. But here in Bolton today, it hasn't stopped people from heading into the town centre to try and get some last-minute shopping done. This is what people here told us earlier on today.
We got the Christmas shopping, didn't we?
Yeah.
Presents, and we just wrapped them all up, and by November we're finished. So we just wait for the day now, and that's it.
I'm getting some last-minute bits.
Does it make you nervous that you've left it quite last minute?
No, it's me, lastminute.com every time.
We've done all our shopping because we've been up here since, when do we come up?
Come up Friday.
Friday.
Whatever Friday was.
Yeah.
When you're a working class man, you don't have really much time to get out there and do your shopping, so Christmas Eve for me, unfortunately.
Well, last-minute shopping is always one of those controversial subjects that splits the population in two. Half the people will be organised and have had things done for weeks and weeks in advance. I myself found myself in that camp. And then the rest of the population will be like the people here in Bolton Town Centre today, getting in that last-minute shopping. And that increased footfall is going to be seen as a good thing. There was a lot of concerns following Labour's budget about businesses, particularly small businesses and businesses on our high streets, finding themselves struggling as a result of that budget. So increased footfall here in Bolton and around the UK will only be seen as a very good thing as we are in the lead up to Christmas Day tomorrow.
You know, Sophie Reaper, I've loved you all year long, but you're one of those smug so-and-sos that gets everything wrapped up in November or gone right off you. Now, if you're in search of some winter sun this year, here is the forecast for some of the top European holiday destinations.
Ready to soak up that holiday sunshine?
Won't we need some cover?
No worries. All sorted.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations forecast.
No snow for the UK this Christmas, but there is across other parts of Europe, particularly across the southeast. Generally fine and sunny for the Canaries on Christmas Day and across Madeira as well. That will be quite windy here. Plenty of winter sunshine on offer across Iberia, but it will be turning cooler here with the winds coming down from the north. Heavy rain across the Balkans and Italy on Christmas Eve, clearing, but some snow flurries following and some heavy downpours across Greece and Turkey. Sunny skies in Barcelona, but not very warm.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations forecast.
It's Patrick Christie's tonight, and here we do things differently. It's explaining the absolute madness of this, doesn't it? It's explosive. I mean, this is very good. It's lively.
850. Your government sat there, Sean, and it did nothing.
It's controversial.
And the Middle East has been in turmoil since before I was born.
It's everything you need to kickstart your evening.
Everyone's had their Weetabix tonight. I love to see it.
That's Patrick Christie's tonight, weeknights from 9 p.m. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Britain's newsroom, weekday mornings from 9:30.
Maria, potholes are the bane of everybody that uses the road, whether you're a car driver or a cyclist. As a cyclist, are even worse. How have we got into this situation where our roads are in such a bad state?
Well, part of it is to do with actually our climate. In somewhere like, say, Sweden, like the snow will fall on the ground, it will stay there for months. Whereas here we've got what's called a freeze-thaw climate, where the water comes down, then we might have a cold snap and it freezes, and the water within the pothole will then expand and make the pothole bigger. Then we might have a mild spell, and then that process repeats. So, you know, we do actually need extra funding to acknowledge the fact that, we just live in a climate where we're sort of particularly vulnerable to potholes.
Why? I mean, the fact that this happens, these weather conditions happen, is no great surprise to anybody. Why has the problem been ignored for so long?
I think what's happened is we've had like short-term funding. So it's like, oh, there's a pothole, let's patch it up. Oh, there's another one, let's patch it up. But the patches aren't actually really that strong, so then they break down again. So, really what we need is to have roads completely resurfaced, and then they'll just be pothole-free for a very long time. And that really is how funding should be. That's the direction funding should go in, as opposed to just sort of like dribs and drabs here and there.
Do you think this government are going to be good for the motorist, or is there indeed a war on the motorist still?
The different parties come in and they've all got different policies that they wheel out, then they cancel the policies, and then there's so much lack of transparency. Like, for example, with the pothole issue, sometimes the government, whichever government is in office, will do some big showboating about how they're going to give X amount of potholes, and you still think that sounds really good.
GB News, the People's Channel.
Hi there, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and I'm going to take a second to tell you all about my show, Dubes & Co. We start off with the issues of the day. We then bring in both sides of the argument. We get rid of the disrespect. And then you throw me into the mix. And trust me, I'll tell it exactly how it is. And then, of course, the magic ingredient, you at home. We mix it all together, and what have we got? In my opinion, the best debate show in town. Monday to Friday, 6 till 7 on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back, 10 to 5 on Christmas Eve now. Ask you at the top of the show, who would be your perfect Christmas dinner party guest? Well, Stephen has asked for a majority of the GB News lineup. He said Sam Francis, Darren Grimes and Boris Johnson. Well, I'm not there. Stephen, you're fired. And George says that his guest would be Billy Connolly. Nice. Celine Dion and Dame Judi Dench. And Christine says Margaret Thatcher. And June says Donald Trump and Nigel Farage. I think we can see where that leads us to. Now, let's bring my panel in. Susie Stride and Aman Bogle. Dream dinner party guest. I gave you mine top of the show. Donald Trump, Brian Clough, the legendary football manager for Nottingham Forest, my team, and Lemmy from Motorhead. What a party that would be. Who are your guests?
So I'm saying Ryan Reynolds, just because he's one of my favourite actors.
And he's a bit hot.
Pardon? He is.
Yeah.
You've got to just call it as he is. Obviously, he's married. That's life. Obama, just because I think he's fascinating, or Nelson Mandela. And then I would do a historical figure, someone like Esther from the Bible, these kind of courageous women that are historical and did live and showed great courage.
Beautiful stuff. Aman Bogle, who'd be on your Christmas dinner table?
Oh, it's an easy one, Martin. I mean, it would be Prime Minister Margaret Thatcher for what she got right in rescuing Britain from the clutches of socialist depredations. Prime Minister Modi, what he's getting right in getting the civilizational inheritance, getting it back, and Nigel Farage as the future Prime Minister, or what he would learn from the two to get things right here in Britain.
Susie Stride just choked on her turkey there.
I mean, you can't just come on the show and meet Nigel. It's very pleasant,
But it is interesting to think. I think it'd be hilarious to get someone like Donald Trump around, just to say, look, he's about to be the president of the USA. What's going down? Brian Clough, I just think, was one of the all-time greatest football managers. And Barack Obama. You've gone for a bit of a woke mix there, I think.
I don't know if it is a woke mix. I mean, Ryan...
Come on, Barack Obama.
Barack Obama, he's just a fascinating person. He led America. He did a good job at leading America. But I always think look, Donald Trump would be fascinating to me.
Yeah.
My mum's got Elvis, Jesus and Sam Cooke.
Well,
you can think of the Beatles, throw them in there.
We're bigger than Elvis. We're bigger than Jesus, or so they said. That's a great mix. Elvis, that'd be wonderful.
Yeah, and Sam Cooke. You can't forget Sam Cooke. Beautiful voice, But maybe we'll get to see all these people in heaven,
Yeah, beautiful stuff. Thank you very much. Now, let us know who'd be on your list. Get in touch. The easiest way to do that, gbviews@gbnews.com. We're back soon to look over the year in politics and some more on that woke Christmas. Plus, the ultimate wine guide. I can't wait. We'll be swagging wine, and I'm getting paid to do it. I'm Martin Daubney on GB News. Now, here's your weather.
Despite the morning rain, it'll be a nice, warm, cosy day ahead. Boxed Heat Pumps, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Hello again and welcome to the latest forecast from the Met Office for GB News. It's very mild out there, just in time for Christmas. A lot of cloud across the UK, but dry for most. So actually, the weather is relatively settled, at least if you're planning any outdoor activities this Christmas. High pressure to the south, a west to southwesterly airflow, that's brought in a lot of cloud. Low-lying cloud that covers the hills in the north and the west and brings some patchy drizzle as well. Some more persistent rain overnight heading into the northwest of Scotland along with a strengthening wind. That wind, though, importing further mild air, and as a result, Christmas morning, temperatures of 9 to 12 Celsius. There will be, though, some brighter weather to be had on Christmas Day, certainly compared with Christmas Eve. You can see some cloud breaks there to the east of Wales, into the Midlands, southern England as well. It's going to be largely dry as we wake up on the big day. So England and Wales mostly fine. Northern Ireland still largely cloudy but dry. Scotland, however, it's going to be windy, particularly to the northwest where we've got some persistent rain, and it's going to stay damp over western hills. Best of the cloud breaks for Scotland, though, northeast Scotland, and where we see these cloud breaks, it will be particularly mild, 12 or 13 Celsius, and actually not a bad afternoon if you're going for a Christmas walk across much of the UK, but particularly towards the south where winds will generally be light and there will be some glimmers of brightness from time to time. 12 to 13 Celsius, and the warmest spots will once again be northeast Wales, northeast England, northeast Scotland, where we do get those cloud breaks coming along. Later in the day, a weather front sinks into the north and west of Scotland, bringing wet and windy weather. That will slowly trundle its way southwards, but for the vast majority it just stays cloudy and mild until the end of the week and the weekend.
There will be a light breeze in the morning, leading to a warm front. Boxed heat pumps, sponsors of weather on GB News.
The latest GB News travel.
Good afternoon, I'm Jules Buckley. Issues continue for the A15 in Lincolnshire this afternoon. Closed both ways still between Waddingham and Caneby Corner. A collision from this morning continues to be investigated. Now, still a lane shut on the southbound M40 in Oxfordshire. Lane 1's combed off. It's ongoing emergency barrier repairs, so slow from Tame at 7 to Watlington Junction 6. The Tunbridge Road in Barming in Kent, the A26 closed both ways between Glebe Lane and Cedar Drive. Delays at the scene of a collision there. To Taunton in Somerset and East Street is still shut both ways between the Racehorse Inn and Corporation Street. There's been a collision there. And to South West Wales and Carmarthenshire, just south of Lampeter, the A482 closed both ways between Harford and Cumman. There's a fallen telegraph pole there causing 1 or 2 delays. And that's the latest.
You can stay up to date throughout the day by visiting our website gbnews.com.
Imagine getting the call
It's Patrick Christie's Tonight, and here we do things differently. It's explaining the absolute madness of this, doesn't it? It's explosive. I mean, this is very good. It's lively.
850. Your government sat there, Sean, and it did nothing.
It's controversial. And the Middle East has been in turmoil since before I was born. It's everything you need to kickstart your evening. Everyone's had their Weetabix tonight. I love to see it. That's Patrick Christie's Tonight, weeknights from 9 p.m. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Camilla Tominey, for a frank and honest discussion with those in power that cuts through the spin and gets to the heart of the issues shaping our nation.
You haven't confirmed that you want to stand as leader, but you haven't ruled it out either.
This report basically says that he's not fit to stand trial. Is he indecisive? Incompetent? I deliver the dose of reality Westminster needs. That's the Camilla Tominey Show at 9:30 every Sunday on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Very, very Merry Christmas Eve to you. Only one more sleep to go, and it's 5 p.m. and you're watching Martin Daubney here on GB News. Thanks for joining me on this momentous day for a very special, jam-packed, festive show. In this hour, what a right royal year it's been. From the King and the Princess Catherine's cancer diagnoses to a double recovery and a seemingly non-stop nonsense from Harry and Meghan, including their bogus tours of Nigeria and Colombia. It's been a right royal year to remember. We'll look back at some of the highs and lows of the royal family in 2024. And Labour isn't working because Rachel Reeves promised to fix the foundations of the economy, but instead, growth is flatlining, inflation is soaring, and business leaders are warning of the worst of all worlds. At Christmas, the Chancellor is now being called the Grinch. Are we sliding towards recession in the new year? And forget jingle bells, this year it's jingle smells, because a stinker of a new survey has revealed that half of all Brits won't change their pants between Christmas and New Year, and a quarter won't even bother to shower. God rest all ye smelly gentlemen. That's all to come in your next hour. Seriously, if you're not going to change your pants all Christmas, have a word with yourself. If you're not going to get in the shower, have a word with yourself. You know, hygiene doesn't take a break for Christmas, you know, like Santa. Once your work is done, you just simply fester on your sofa. And this survey also says that half of Brits just pick up food from the cartons. 55% don't get out of the pyjamas for days at a time. What have we become? Have standards slipped? Or actually, am I being a complete Grinch? Is it a time just to slob out and do nothing? Are you going to spend Christmas in your gym jams, or perish the thought? Are you going to spend Christmas in the same pair of pants? Get in touch, gbnews.com/your say. But now it's your news headlines, and here's Sam Francis.
Very good evening to you. The top story tonight. Well, thousands of migrants are gathering along France's northern coast, preparing to cross the Channel as weather conditions are set to improve on Christmas Day. Exclusive GB News footage shows hundreds at camps near Dunkirk, with thousands more spread along a 50-mile stretch towards Calais and Boulogne. Smugglers are offering so-called Christmas specials for crossings, with UK and French authorities bracing for a possible surge over the next 5 days. Border Force says it is on a heightened alert as strong winds are set to ease overnight, allowing for more crossings. More than 35,000 migrants have now made the journey so far this year. That is 20% higher than last year's total. Sir Keir Starmer has come under fire today for planning to jet abroad over New Year after spending Christmas at Chequers with his family. Critics have slammed his travel habits, with over 170 hours spent in the air since July, while key domestic issues remain unresolved, they say. The Prime Minister's team won't reveal his destination for the new year, but insists he'll stay in charge rather than handing over to his deputy. His latest foreign trips to Norway and Estonia wrapped up only just last week. Looking towards a better and a brighter future. That is the Prime Minister's Christmas message, his first in power. 6 months into his leadership, he's urging people to look after those around us, with calls for peace in the Middle East. Opposition leader Kemi Badenoch struck a personal note in her Christmas message, calling the season her very favourite time of year and thanking the public for their support and kindness. Meanwhile, Lib Dem leader Sir Ed Davey has paid tribute to young carers, sharing his own experience of looking after his sick mother as a child. Protests have erupted in Syria today after a Christmas tree was burned in a Christian-majority region of the country. Footage shows men setting alight that tree, sparking outrage as protesters have taken to the streets of Damascus, some chanting against foreign fighters. Tahrir al-Sham, the Islamist group now in power, has blamed foreign fighters and pledged to protect minority rights. The groups also promised the tree would be repaired, holding up a cross in an unprecedented gesture of solidarity. It comes as Syria is now facing uncertainty under that new Islamist rule following the fall of Bashar al-Assad's decades-long regime. Here at home, an investigation is now underway after a passenger's hand became trapped in the doors of an Elizabeth Line train, forcing them to run alongside the moving train before being freed. The incident at Ealing Broadway left the passenger with minor injuries and has raised fresh concerns about the safety of the line. The Rail Accident Investigation Branch is now examining what went wrong, and it follows a string of similar incidents, including passengers being dragged by underground trains when their clothing became caught. Calls for safety improvements like better door technology and platform adjustments have been growing since the £18 billion line opened in May of 2022. There's been more Christmas Eve frustration today for Morrison's customers, with deliveries either late or even cancelled, and that comes more than 24 hours after a system glitch first disrupted orders yesterday. The chaos on the 23rd of December, the busiest grocery shopping day of the year, left shoppers waiting for deliveries worth hundreds of pounds. Morrison's has apologised but hasn't revealed the cause of the problem, despite repeated requests. And NASA's Parker Solar Probe is set to make history today on Christmas Eve with the closest ever approach to the Sun. The spacecraft will skim just 3.6 million miles from the star's surface, enduring temperatures of nearly 1,000 degrees and speeds of 430,000 miles an hour. Scientists say the mission will uncover secrets about the solar activity of the Sun, help to protect satellites, power grids and even astronauts. The spacecraft will then reconnect with Earth on the 27th of December after hopefully safely completing that record-breaking flyby. Those are the latest headlines for now. I'll be back with you very shortly.
For the very latest GB News direct to your smartphone, sign up to News Alerts by scanning the QR code or go to gbnews.com/alerts.
Thank you, Sam. Now, it's been a very tough, trying and you might say tumultuous year for the royal family this year, with both King Charles and Princess Catherine, of course, being diagnosed with cancer. And this was followed by this amazing, heartwarming video in early September when Princess Kate announced that she had finished her chemotherapy. Let's remind ourselves of what I think was the royal event of the year.
As the summer comes to an end, I cannot tell you what a relief it is to have finally completed my chemotherapy treatment. The last 9 months have been incredibly tough for us as a family. Life as you know it can change in an instant, and we've had to find a way to navigate the stormy waters and road unknown. The cancer journey is complex, scary, and unpredictable for everyone, especially those closest to you. With humility, it also brings you face to face with your own vulnerabilities in a way you've never considered before. And with that, a new perspective on everything.
Is this filming?
Hello?
Hello?
This time has above all reminded William and me to reflect and be grateful for the simple yet important things in life, which so many of us often take for granted, of simply loving and being loved. Doing what I can to stay cancer-free is now my focus. Although I have finished chemotherapy, my path to healing and full recovery is long, and I must continue to take each day as it comes. I am, however, looking forward to being back at work and undertaking a few more public engagements in the coming months when I can. Despite all that's gone before, I enter this new phase of recovery with a renewed sense of hope and appreciation of life. William and I are so grateful for the support we've received and have drawn great strength from all those who are helping us at this time. Everyone's kindness, empathy and compassion has been truly humbling. To all those who are continuing their own cancer journey, I remain with you, side by side, hand in hand. Out of darkness can come light. So let that light shine bright.
It's an astonishing and moving piece of movie making, isn't it? And let's speak now with the royal biographer, Ian Lloyd. Ian, welcome to the show. September that was released, still as powerful today as the day it came out. I remember that came out during my show and I watched that in real time. And when it came back to me then, I was moved to tears. And I'm close to tears again now because I think what it taught us about the royal family, what it taught us about all of us, is that the small things are so important. You know, playing cards with your children, hugging your children, running your hand through grass, just being around your loved ones and not taking life for granted. And, you know, as we approach Christmas, Ian Lloyd, those messages are as pertinent as ever, aren't they?
Absolutely. Good evening, Martin. Yeah, I mean, it was startling, and it also reflected a different approach by the royal family, because the royal family I grew up with would never have talked about anything like that. I mean, the late Queen and Prince Philip would not talk about illness in that respect, and certainly the King's grandfather, George VI, died of cancer, and it was never even mentioned. He didn't even know. So it was a completely different approach that both Kate and King Charles were sharing, their diagnosis and so on. The amazing thing for me was that after this footage that you showed went out, I went through the newspapers of foreign countries, and it was mentioned in 5 continents. It was mentioned widely in South America, in places like Ecuador, Bolivia. I mean, quite often front page news, and Italy, Spain, Portugal, you know, all of these countries carried it, because it had global impact and reflected well, I think, on Catherine and the royal family. And I think it really highlighted what they were going through, you know.
And I think, Ian, what was also so special about it was the way that the public was invited into this painful journey, this discovery, if you like, and the empathy with everybody else, any other ordinary citizen, you know, who'd been through a similar testing circumstance, and also the media hounding the conspiracy theories, and people getting very, very protective, didn't they, of Catherine and the royal family. And out of that darkness, in a sense, we became stronger. We bonded better with the royal family, and it was a journey that we all shared.
Yeah, as I said, the late Queen was quite a remote figure, as she would not have liked that kind of intimacy. But the present generation seem to be willing to share it. In fact, the King's going to mention it tomorrow in his speech. He's going to reflect on what a difficult year it's been personally for him and Catherine, as well as talking about wider things such as the community cohesion, about the troubled year for the United Kingdom, about the Southport murders and riots and things like that. It's not going to totally reflect on the royal family. But yes, that's definitely going to be mentioned tomorrow. So it's still having an impact, you know. And I think they're both looking forward to next year, when you can start afresh, and that hopefully they'll all be able to undertake tours abroad. The King's going to Italy at some point in the spring and so on. So it's going to hopefully be revived, and there's a period of you know, sort of positivity for the royal family next year.
And Ian Lloyd, it hasn't all been sweetness and light and positivity, of course. Prince Andrew, once again, finding himself asked to keep out of the spotlights. It seems to be becoming almost a regular part of Christmas again. Last year it was Jeffrey Epstein. This year it's the Chinese spy scandal.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, there were supposed to be 45 of them at Sandringham this weekend, this Christmas period, rather, and there's now 43 because he's at Windsor with Fergie, so they won't be having the turkey. They'll probably have a Chinese takeaway courtesy of Xi Jinping, but it's going to be a very different approach for them. But yeah, he's you know, Well, he's the gift that keeps on giving, like Prince Harry. You know,
that's right.
Never short of a good story, I suppose. Every family's got somebody like that.
And Ian, meanwhile, of course, seeming non-stop nonsense from the Sussexes. What do you make of looking back over those quasi-royal tours to Nigeria and to Colombia? They had more than a tinge of the absurd about them.
Well, they did, yeah. I mean, everybody said it's a quasi-royal. And, of course, it was more noticeable because the real royalty, if you like, the bona fide working royals, couldn't go on tours. I mean, had Kate and William been going, you know, say to a state visit to America, well, state visits by the king, so they wouldn't be state. But had they gone to, say, America or France or something, that would have knocked off the front pages Harry and Meghan easily. But they were not out and about, so it was, you know, it needed them. I mean, it's a great shame that they're not working within the royal family because it would have been another fairly glamorous couple that could have added something. But it's a bit like the Duke and Duchess of Windsor. They were always doing things like that, you know, going and making headlines when they met Hitler in 1938 and when he became governor of the Bahamas. It was all a bit tawdry, a bit, you know, sort of tin pot sort of royalty rather than real royalty. So it's kind of history repeating itself.
And still no reunion with the Sussexes and King Charles, or indeed William and Catherine. Perhaps there could be a miracle at Christmas, or perhaps that will have to wait until next year. Thanks for joining us. Always a pleasure. Right. The royal biographer Ian
Christmas.
Lloyd, and here you go, a little glass of fizz on the go. Well done, mate. Raise that, have a little drink. It's been a pleasure having you on the show this year. Thank you very, very much, and a very, very Merry Christmas. I'm quickly coming back to my panel now for a quick bit of reaction. I'm joined by Susie Stride and Aman Bogle. Aman, could I turn to you first? Because you talked about, as a proud Sikh, how Christianity bonds us. The royal family is another key part of the mortar that bonds us together. Do you think this year has been a year where we've reassessed our relationship with the royal family and, in a sense, grown to love them in a different way?
I think I agree. Look, the royal family is the great keel that holds together the great British ship that is Great Britain, sailing in so many ways in such tumultuous waters over the last few decades. When we lost the Queen, I think it was a real turning point for a lot of people in this country that the Queen has always been there, you know, as a solid figure of stability and continuity. No matter who the Prime Minister was, no matter who was in charge of the government, the Queen was always there. And I think Princess Kate is that unifying figure that has fought back with great dignity and with great gumption, cancer, with her own battle. We've got King Charles, who faces a very similar battle, has faced it. But I think Princess Kate is really trying to fill in those big shoes that the Queen has left.
Susie Stride, is the royal family your cup of tea?
I wouldn't say the royal family are my cup of tea, just because I think people being privileged by blood is an unusual thing and not that logical. However, I was a big fan of the Queen, and I really do miss her Christmas Day speeches. We used to all gather around and watch them. Not my father, but the rest of us. My grandma and grandpa are really big fans. And you can't not say that she wasn't a remarkable woman. But, yeah, I mean, I don't know what the future holds for them. I think we probably do need to see, and we probably will see the reform of the royal family in the years to come.
You have to slip that in there, a little bar humbug end to the section.
Bar humbug. I praise the Queen. She was a wonderful woman.
Thank you very much. Let's move on now. It's time now for our biggest and greatest Great British giveaway this year, and your chance to win £50,000 in tax-free cash is the biggest cash prize we've ever given away here at GB News, and it could all be yours in time for Christmas. Here's how you could win it.
It's the biggest, greatest Great British giveaway so far, with your chance to win a spectacular £50,000 in tax-free cash. 2025 could be amazing.
OK, Susie and Amanda still arguing about the royal family, but coming up, the economy is heading for the worst of all worlds, apparently, in 2025. We were told the Labour Party will fix the foundations, but are the wheels coming off? That's next, and I'll put that to an economist. I'm Martin Daubney on GB News, Britain's news channel.
I'm Christopher Hope. From pop stars to politicians, I'll interview anybody in a pub who's got a political opinion. Join me every Friday on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube or gbnews.com, or wherever you get your podcasts. This is GB News, the People's Channel.
Sunday with Michael Portillo from 11, only on GB News.
The birth rate in Britain has sunk to 1.49. Well below replacement rate, yet policies pursued by both major parties are still to spend huge sums to encourage parents back to their work when their children are still at preschool age. Should we not be helping parents to spend longer at home, asks his new book, whilst recognising that in an age of sex equality, the question is fraught. David Goodhart joins me now.
We undervalue the domestic realm, and that has led to lots of the most negative trends in British society. About half of children in the UK are not living with both of their biological parents by the age of 14. We have, of families with dependent children, about 24-25% are single-parent households. Mainly mothers, and they're doing, valiant work. But of course, it means you don't have the investment in children that a two-parent family can give. I mean, the reason why it's a care dilemma is that a lot of these negative trends are also kind of intimately related to positive things, like that movement of women into work, the fact that women are no longer so defined by marriage and motherhood, the fact that women and men are freer to leave unhappy relationships. And the challenge for modern liberal societies is, how we hold on to those freedoms but get a better balance, which means, I think, investing more in the domestic realm. We spend a total now of £9 billion on childcare subsidies. Why not give that subsidy direct to young parents so they could then choose whether to subsidise themselves, as it were, to be able to afford to stay at home, or to give it to a nursery, or to give it to granny, or to keep it in the home.
GB News.
We're proud to be GB News, the People's Channel. And as you know, we always love to hear your views. Now, there's a new way of getting in touch with us at gbnews.com/yoursay. By commenting, you can be part of a live conversation and join our GB News community. You can even talk to me, Bev Turner, or any of the members of the GB News family.
This is Britain's Newsroom, where your voice matters.
It's just astonishing. With expert analysis and honest opinion, we don't just keep you informed.
We bring you unique perspectives you won't see anywhere else.
Can't argue with any of that. When the news happens, it happens here.
On Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 a.m.
Only on GB News.
Welcome back. It's 5:22. I'm Martin Daubney on GB News, and Susie and Amanda still arguing about the royal family. But let's move on now, because we're all trying to get into the festive mood. But the UK's stalling economy is definitely becoming a dampener on the Christmas spirit. The latest GDP figures this week show that the UK economy flatlined in the third quarter of this year in what is now being called the worst of all worlds for the British economy. We can now speak with the economist and the business consultant, Vicky Price. Vicky, welcome to the show. So the Labour Party promised to fix the foundations. They promised economic stability. Doesn't quite feel like that's happening. Am I wrong in saying it feels like we might be wobbling towards a recession in 2025?
It does, I'm afraid. I mean, the interesting thing is that we've had basically almost 2 quarters of stagnation, because the likelihood is that the autumn quarter, so Q4 2024, will be near to zero anyway. It could actually even be a negative when the final figures are put together, because we had a pretty poor October. We saw a drop in GDP following a September drop. And we've had pretty sort of bad data too from surveys in terms of what's been happening to manufacturing production, which has continued to decline, and services are only just beginning to pick up again. Of course, we're getting near to Christmas, so people are going out to spend a little bit more. But overall, yes, I think the consumer is being very careful, despite the fact that they're getting above inflation wage increases, and businesses are very careful because they're trying still to analyse what the impact of the October 30th budget is.
Well, Vicky, you'd be dancing around your Christmas tree if you're a train driver. You'd be dancing around the mistletoe if you're a public sector worker. 10 billion quid in pay rises there. But if you're a farmer, if you're a pensioner, if you're a waspy woman, then it's not quite so happy reading. There's a bit more humble pie to be eaten at Christmas. A lot of people were warning when this budget came out that hiking national insurance on employers would force them into making difficult decisions about taking people on. Hiking the minimum wage would impact their bottom line. There are a lot of warnings going out, but they weren't heeded. Vicky Price, as we approach Christmas, could we give the Chancellor, Rachel Reeves, an end-of-term report? What would you give her? Is she a Christmas cracker or a Christmas turkey?
I think in the short term, I'd say that she still has to prove herself, if you like. So we give her the benefit of the doubt, would be what I'd say. Maybe in the longer term, things will turn around. I think that's what they're hoping. The trouble is that they're not necessarily going to get that. Interest rates have remained very high. The Bank of England is worried about inflation. They haven't cut rates, as we had all been hoping that they would be doing much faster than they've done, despite the fact that both the Federal Reserve in the US and also the European Central Bank have been cutting rates, even though their own inflation rates have been going up a little bit. So I think everyone is very scared about sort of taking any sort of steps that might be criticised. So it doesn't look like Rachel Reeves is worried about that, but certainly the Bank of England rate setters are, which means that she's not getting an awful lot of help, because obviously if people feel more confident as interest rates come down, businesses as well, then they would be more prepared to go out and hire and spend. And they probably will be charging consumers for the increase in national insurance contributions that they have to pay. Or I'm guessing all of those things will be reducing the wages that they give to workers from where they would otherwise be, and possibly not hiring as many people as they would have done otherwise. So yes, it has to be proven by Rachel Reeves that actually her policies will work positively in the long term, and for the moment, not much sign of that.
And of course, all eyes now will be, we've got like half an hour left till the Christmas shop shut. Retail figures, the Christmas data, always so important. Of course, hospitality, eating out, dining out. Do you think there could be a miracle at Christmas? There could be this last-minute oomph to give the economy the rev up it needs? Or do you think actually it's going to be a damp squib and things could look perilous in the new year with retail foreclosures coming?
I think we always get a bit of a boost at Christmas, and I think we're going to see that this year as well. What we've seen, actually, interestingly enough, is that there has been a little bit extra hiring for Christmas because there is so much to post to fill for the demand that's there, which has been a pent-up demand. Nobody was going out shopping very much. I think they will be doing this now. They've done a little bit with Black Friday. They will probably all wait for the sales after Christmas in the usual way. So I don't think it's going to be a huge boost, but I think the figures for retail sales are not seasonally adjusted, I'm afraid. So they're bound to show a little bit of an improvement if you just look at it at face value. But then, of course, the question is what happens later.
OK, we've got to leave it there. Thank you very much, and a very Merry Christmas to you there, Vicky Price. Thanks for joining us all today and also throughout the year. Let's come back to my panel now, Susie Strider and Aman Bogle. Susie Strider, I'll start with you. Let's face it, the Labour Party said after 14 years of chaos they would fix the foundations. They haven't fixed the foundations. They've ripped the foundations apart. The economy is barrelling towards a recession on every metric, on hiring, on GDP, on inflation, on interest rates. It's been a disaster from the Chancellor so far.
Don't blame the Conservatives.
I'm not going to blame the Conservatives, but what I am going to say is, there is no actual economist out there that would say that in the space of 5 to 6 months that you can turn around 15 years of neglect.
What is
going on?
Decisions have been made
if we
now
genuinely
by
had, if we had an economist here now, they would not be saying that what is going on in the last few months is to do with the budget just now in November.
No, they would.
This is to do do with what the Tories have just done for 14 years. Well, you've been in. No, I'm sorry.
Exactly
I'm sorry. No, this is not dishonesty. No, I'm sorry. I'm happy to say, listen, in a year's time, if I'm on your programme on Christmas Eve and if things are not turning around, you can hold me to account. You can hold my party to account.
Said,
this is no. This is. I'm sorry. I will not have this. I'm sorry. It's like saying.
Susan,
it's like you cannot blame.
Hang on a minute.
Yes, go for it.
Hang on a minute. The fact of the matter is, decisions were made at the budget which have had a tangible impact on the economic throughput of the country. 25 billion quid, national insurance hikes, business leaders all across Britain have said this will impact their bottom line. It will mean less hiring, it will mean less wage rises, and it will mean less jobs. It's a tax on workers. The Chancellor, Rachel Reeves, when she was the Shadow Chancellor, said that herself. She's taken a decision also to put 10 billion quid into the public sector, and yet we're told there's a 22 billion pound black hole. There can't be a black hole if you're finding 10 billion quid for your union mates. This is about making decisions. You've got to stop blaming the Conservatives.
It's a very small amount of money, first of all, that went on that. The second thing is you can't build a strong economy when you have people that are waiting months and months and months on for the NHS. You have to have a healthy economy. You have to have a healthy NHS. You have to have healthy schools, and you also have to have a healthy transport network. All of these things are crucial and important. We are fixing the trains. We are fixing the NHS. We are building homes.
Let's break this down.
The Tories didn't do any of that.
Let's break this down. I mean, look, we were promised by this Labour Party that we would have an economist in number 11, yet we've got a red communist squatting instead in number 11 in Rachel Reeves. And then we've got the Prime Minister who said we're going to fix the foundations of the economy, yet he's playing with Lego blocks with his lack of policy idea of where this is going to work. Look, the problem here is that as Liz Truss said a few days ago, we're stuck now in this economic doom loop of unfunded tax rises. Have you ever heard of unfunded tax rises? That's what this Labour government is imposing on this great nation.
Did you say Liz Truss?
Yes, Liz Truss. And you know what? The Guilds today are in a worse place than they were when you lot connived together to get rid of the only Prime Minister who would have given us the growth that this country so badly needs. My simple question, Liz Truss.
Who sent people's mortgages through the roof? I'm sorry. It is universally agreed by Tories, Lib Dems, Labour and everyone.
The guild prices today, the guild prices today are in a worse place than they were in that month in September 2022. Look, my simple question to the Labour Party is, show me one place in the world where socialist economics has worked of unfunded tax rising. You can't point to one single country.
What we're talking about, we're not even talking about socialism here.
It is socialism.
We're not talking about socialism, and I think I honestly,
so you're telling me that the Labour Party is not socialist?
I genuinely think there isn't a Conservative watching that could defend Liz Truss for what she did. People's mortgages, hard-working people that we like to talk about on this programme, mortgages went through the roof.
And where are they today?
They also did all across Europe as well, but at the same time,
I'm sorry,
but
there is nothing good to say about Liz Truss, hence why she left. We didn't get rid of her. You guys got rid of her.
Liz Truss was
and
the
what is
only
really
hope that
important
this country had.
I don't want to talk over you, but what I do want to say is you cannot have quick fixes on the economy. We want sustainable growth.
You've had 14
we want
years.
sustainable growth. And that is, you're not going to get that in 5 months. That is not what's going to happen. We're going to begin to see the best days of this country are coming. The best days of this nation are coming. We are going to see turnaround, and you can hold me to account on that.
People are fed up of this dishonesty.
And you also believe in Santa, by the sounds of it. Look, we've got to move on. Thank you very much. First off, Susie Stride and Eman Fogel. Very, very lively as ever. Keeping us awake on Christmas Eve. Talk to which is your latest news headlines, and it's Sam Francis.
Martin, thank you, and a very good afternoon, or very good evening, in fact, to you. It is just after 5:30. Thousands of migrants are gathering along France's northern coast, preparing to cross the Channel as weather conditions are expected to improve on Christmas Day. Exclusive GB News footage shows hundreds at camps near Dunkirk, with thousands more spread along a 50-mile stretch towards Calais and Boulogne. Smugglers are offering so-called Christmas specials for crossings, with UK and French authorities bracing for a possible surge over the next 5 days. Border Force is on heightened alert as strong winds are set to ease overnight. More than 35,000 migrants have made the journey so far this year. That is 20% higher than last year's total. An investigation is underway after a passenger's hand became trapped in the doors of an Elizabeth Line train, forcing them to run alongside the moving train before eventually being freed. The incident at Ealing Broadway left the passenger with minor injuries and has raised fresh concerns about safety on the line. The Rail Accident Investigation Branch is now examining what went wrong, and it follows a string of similar incidents, including passengers being dragged by underground trains when clothing became caught. Calls for safety improvements like better door technology and platform adjustments have been growing since the line opened in 2022. In Syria, protests have erupted after a Christmas tree was burned in a Christian-majority region. Footage showed masked men setting the tree alight, sparking outrage as protesters took to the streets in Damascus, some chanting against foreign fighters. Tahrir al-Sham, the Islamist group now in power in Syria, has blamed those foreign fighters and pledged to protect minority rights, detaining several over the incident. The groups promised the tree would be repaired, holding up a cross in an unprecedented gesture of solidarity. It comes as Syria faces uncertainty under new Islamist rule, following the fall of Bashar al-Assad's decades-long regime. And NASA's Parker Solar Probe is set to make history on Christmas Eve today, the closest ever approach to the sun being attempted. The spacecraft will skim just 3.6 million miles from the sun's surface, enduring temperatures of nearly 1,000 degrees. Scientists say the mission will uncover secrets about solar activity, and the spacecraft will then reconnect with Earth on the 27th of December after completing that record flyby. Those are the latest headlines for now. Martin will be back with you after this very short break.
For the very latest GB News direct to your smartphone, sign up to News Alerts by scanning the QR code or go to gbnews.com/alerts.
Hello again and welcome to the latest forecast from the Met Office for GB News. It's very mild out there, just in time for Christmas. A lot of cloud across the UK, but dry for most. So actually, the weather is relatively settled, at least if you're planning any outdoor activities this Christmas. High pressure to the south, a west to southwesterly airflow. That's brought in a lot of cloud. Low-lying cloud that covers the hills in the north and the west and brings some patchy drizzle as well. Some more persistent rain overnight heading into the northwest of Scotland along with a strengthening wind. That wind, though, importing further mild air, and as a result, Christmas morning, temperatures of 9 to 12 Celsius. There will be, though, some brighter weather to be had on Christmas Day, certainly compared with Christmas Eve. You can see some cloud breaks there to the east of Wales, into the Midlands, southern England as well. It's going to be largely dry as we wake up on the big day. So England and Wales mostly fine. Northern Ireland still largely cloudy but dry. Scotland, however, it's going to be windy, particularly to the northwest where we've got some persistent rain, and it's going to stay damp over western hills. Best of the cloud breaks for Scotland, though, northeast Scotland. And where we see these cloud breaks, it will be particularly mild, 12 or 13 Celsius. And actually, not a bad afternoon if you're going for a Christmas walk across much of the UK, but particularly towards the south, where winds will generally be light and there will be some glimmers of brightness from time to time. 12 to 13 Celsius. And the warmest spots will once again be northeast Wales, northeast England, northeast Scotland, where we do get those cloud breaks coming along. Later in the day, a weather front sinks into the north and west of Scotland, bringing wet and windy weather. That will slowly trundle its way southwards, but for the vast majority, it just stays cloudy and mild until the end of the week and the weekend.
The latest GB News travel. Good afternoon, I'm Samantha Dean. In West Yorkshire, the M1 southbound, there's a lane closed on the entry slip road due to a broken down vehicle. That's at junction 40 Wakefield Road at Ossett. Waddingham in Lincolnshire, the A15's closed for accident investigation work from the B1205 at Curtin Road at Waddingham to the A631 at Caneby Corner. Traffic's coping well. Cooman in Carmarthenshire, the A482's closed, slow traffic due to a fallen telegraph pole. Between Cooman and Harford, and in Taunton in Somerset, the A3027 East Street's closed, delays due to an accident between Corporation Street and the Racehorse Inn. In Kent at Barming, the A26 Tunbridge Road's closed due to an accident from Cedar Drive to Glebe Lane.
You can stay up to date throughout the day by visiting our website, gbnews.com.
Welcome back. It's 5:39 with me, Martin Daubney, here on GB News. I'm surrounded by wine and cheese. I can't wait for this next part of the show. But before that, we've got some very special Xmas gags for you later on, of course. But first, here's the Vocal Zone Voice Studio Choir from South Derbyshire with their magnificent version of Oh Christmas Tree.
Oh Christmas tree, oh Christmas tree, your branches so delight us. Oh Christmas tree, your branches so delight us. Everywhere snow, the days are bright, still green when winter snow is white. Oh Christmas tree, your branches so delight us. Oh evergreen, you bring to us such pleasure. Oh evergreen, you bring to us such pleasure. How often Christmas time is spite of you, dear tree, gives us delight. Oh evergreen, you bring to us such pleasure.
Absolutely magnificent. As Stephen has written in to say this, I'm absolutely loving these Xmas carols on GB News. Christmas carols, simply divine. I've got to tell you what, Stephen, I magnificently agree. It's been wonderful to hear them throughout this festive period, and also the Advent messages. Now, yesterday we had the comedian John Martin on the show, but unfortunately we got cut off because the previous guest banged on so much. So he's back today by popular demand to share some of his best Christmas jokes with you. Welcome back, John. Sorry we had to rudely cut you off yesterday. And of course you're on because the surveyor's out saying 50% of Brits aren't even changing their underpants over Christmas. 25% of Brits aren't even going to have a shower. It's called Jingle Smells. Over to you. Give us some Christmas smelly jokes.
Well, can I just say, first of all, it's not by popular demand. It's more a tax demand that I'm on with you today, Martin. But yesterday it was very short. I thought it was only on for you to boil an egg. I thought, God blimey. And then I thought, well, he might want runny eggs. But yeah, I'm backstage. I've just done a show in your neck of the woods, Martin. I'm at Thorsby Hall near Nottingham.
Yeah.
For Warner Holiday. I've just done an hour and a half on stage. So it's great being here. I know we were talking about smells, but I bought some aftershave from the car company Tesla. It doesn't smell very much, but it has got a bit of an Elon Musk to it. So,
yeah, very good.
You know, entertainers are working all this time of year, and some of them in pantomimes. I mean, proper pantomimes. I don't mean like Prime Minister's Question Time or anything. These are proper pantomimes, you know. But I know I'm in your neck of the woods, as I say. I love this area. I used to have a job in a service station on the M1 round here. I used to push the little bits of ham to the front of the sandwiches in the motorway cafes. That was my job. But yeah, it's Christmas. We love Christmas. I've asked my wife, I said, can you get me a present that'll take my breath away? So she's bought me a treadmill, which I think is a bit worrying. But I've gone mad. I've bought myself a new car and I've had it delivered from Korea. And it's a strange car. It goes off on the left on its own, then it goes right, then it goes left, then right, then wants to make a U-turn. It's what they call a Kia Starmer. So this, but at Christmas is changing now. I said to my nephew, I said, all we ever got for Christmas was an apple and an orange. He said, what? A computer and a phone? I said, no, just a. He said, will you get me something special? I said, I'll get you whatever you want. He said, get me a drone. He said, I'm going mad for a drone. I'd love a drone. So what I've done, I've recorded my wife talking to her mother on the phone. I'm going to give them that. But
John Moran, we do have to stop you droning on there. We've got to cut you short. But look, go on, one for the road, mate. Go on, one for the road. Go on, chop.
Well, I'm getting myself a new mattress this Christmas. I've had my old mattress 5 years, 6 months, 11 days and 4 hours. I know that because it's a memory foam mattress.
Yeah, beautiful.
Merry Christmas.
On that bombshell, we're going to have to leave it there. John Martin, thank you very much.
Merry Christmas to everyone.
A living, breathing, walking Christmas cracker. Thank you, John Martin. Wonderful stuff.
Christmas.
Absolute pleasure to get you on twice in 2 days, aren't we lucky? Beautiful stuff. Now, coming up, check this festive feast out. I'm doing some wine tasting and I've got some cheese. I simply cannot wait. Joined here by Jessica Summer from Mouse and Grape. I've had a little tickle when I'll be doing so in the break. I get paid to do this. What a great job. Merry Christmas Eve. I'm Martin Daubney on GB News, Britain's News Channel. See you soon.
Ready to soak up that holiday sunshine?
Won't we need some cover?
No worries. All sorted.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
No snow for the UK this Christmas, but there is across other parts of Europe, particularly across the southeast. Generally fine and sunny for the Canaries on Christmas Day and across Madeira as well. That will be quite windy here. Plenty of winter sunshine on offer across Iberia, but it will be turning cooler here with the winds coming down from the north. Heavy rain across the Balkans and Italy on Christmas Eve, clearing, but some snow flurries following and some heavy downpours across Greece and Turkey. Sunny skies in Barcelona, but not very warm.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
Hi there, I'm Michelle Dewberry and I'm going to take a second to tell you all about my show, Dubes & Co. We start off with the issues of the day. We then bring in both sides of the argument. We get rid of the disrespect. And then you throw me into the mix. And trust me, I'll tell it exactly how it is. And then, of course, the magic ingredient, you at home. We mix it all together and what have we got, in my opinion, the best debate show in town. Monday to Friday, 6 till 7 on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Britain's Newsroom. Weekday mornings from 9:30.
It's about Generation Z spending 6 hours a day online. Generation Z, which age group is that?
16 to 24.
OK, great.
Now, this could explain why there's 1 million young people aged between 16 and 24.
100%.
Not working.
Work.
Yeah.
And I did a TV show and we're talking about it, and the lefty person I was on with was making excuses for the fact that we've got 9 million people unemployed. And this woman, this mom, rang in and she was hilarious. And I thought she was going to have a go at me. She said, Cara Malone. I thought, here we go, another one. And she goes, you are absolutely right. She said, I've just thrown my son out of the house, who's 24. She said, my husband and I, she said, we worked all our lives, 2 jobs, to get him to college, to get him to a private school. Yeah. She said, he hasn't worked a day.
No.
And his attitude was, why should I? And you think, and she said he spends all day online.
On his phone.
All he's
because
doing.
we would have gone to get a job because we were bored. And the trouble is, Jonathan, the younger generation are never, ever bored because the algorithms keep them stimulating.
Well, the dopamine hits keep coming. I think it's actually a problem for all of us. Yeah. You know, now for anyone, if you just have a moment to yourself, a lot of people of all ages, what do we reach for? We reach for our phones, particularly for those. Obviously, if we're with a friend, we'll talk to them.
Your age group, you're not talking about...
I know that. I've spoken to a lot of people who are in their 50s and 60s who also will just, you know, if they have a free month on the tube or whatever, they'll just look at their phone and read. And it's actually terrifying because on the iPhone every Monday it tells you how much time you spent on your phone the previous week, and it's
much for you?
On average per day?
Fair few hours. I mean, a lot of that will be work.
What's a ballpark? Oh, more than 5?
Occasionally 5. Yeah.
Well, better things to do. Spending 6 hours a day.
Do you never read a book?
Well, that'll be at night time.
GB News, the People's Channel.
Good Afternoon Britain isn't just about us. The wonderful thing about this programme is it's about everyone watching. It's an interactive programme.
Well, there absolutely is something to see here, and we're going to be talking about it more. Whether it's breaking royal news, Will, please bring us up to date, or indeed a particularly punchy speech in the House of Commons.
Very, very curious.
We bring it to you live, and then we bring you live reaction as well.
That's Good Afternoon Britain, weekdays from midday.
Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back. It's 5:48 with me, Martin Daubney, here on Christmas Eve on GB News. Now, Christmas is the time for indulgence. Of course it is. What better way to celebrate the festivities with a little tipple? But of course, finding the perfect pairing between our meals and our wines can be a tricky job, and that's why I've called in an expert. That's the founder of Mouse and Grape, Jessica Summer, who joins me now with 3 wines that she promises will go perfectly with your Christmas lunch. Welcome to the studio, Jessica.
Thank you very much.
Of course, I've been excited about this all day. Look, I'm one of those blokes. I go to the shop. I go, that's the right price. It's got a nice label. Bosh, I'll have that. I'm not the smartest punter out there. Talk us through the wines you've got, why you've chosen them, and help people make the right choice themselves back at home for GB News viewers.
Absolutely. I think we eat with our eyes first, so I think the label is very important. And from this, you can see that I've got some pretty labels here as well.
Yep.
So these 3 wines are our best sellers in the Mouse and Grape shop, and I've gone for a white wine, a red, and then a sweet wine.
All right, let's get stuck in. So what's this first one?
So this is a Soave. So if you swirl your wine, you're going to get much more of the aromas.
Does that make a difference? Is that just like a Ponzi thing that people do to show off?
No, it's a real thing.
You do it?
You do it, and you can get a lot more aromas from this.
All right.
This is the Soave wine, which is the Garganegro, so it's from Lombardia in Italy.
Oh, God,
and it's
good.
got a bit of a rounder mouth feel, so it'll be very nice with your turkey dinner because you've got those lovely buttery roast potatoes. You've got lots of different elements to a Christmas dinner, so I think it's important to have something that's robust enough to stand up to it as well.
Soave, and what would that set you back for a bottle of that?
So this one is £16, which is, I think, quite reasonable.
For Christmas, you'd pay that, of course.
You would do, definitely.
And what cheese would that go with? Like these cheeses we've got here?
So we've got 4 cheeses here.
Yep.
So this is an example of the platters that I do at my tasting events.
Can we see that?
Yeah.
Hold it up so we can see it.
Nice
What
and
have we got?
indulgent. So we've got 4 cheeses. We've got Red Leicester.
Yep.
We've got Yarlington, which is the British washed rind cheese.
Beautiful.
So it's washed in a cider. So it's quite pungent, and you can really smell this for a few days in the house. You've got a truffle pecorino here,
Yep.
and then also a Gorgonzola picante, which is a spicier cheese.
Wonderful.
And you might find it a bit funny here because I've got some chocolate. So chocolate is really lovely to have on your cheese board, and it goes really well with blue cheeses.
And that's a dark chocolate.
It is a dark chocolate,
Not your
exactly.
Cadbury's Dairy Milk.
No, not.
All right. So with this Soave, which cheese should I have?
So I would have this with your truffle pecorino.
Which one's that?
So that's the one with the little bits of truffle in it.
That
just
one here?
Yeah.
All right, bosh,
And
let's
it's one of those things where it's a regional pairing.
Oh, God.
So if you think about what goes together grows together. So these are both from Italy, from the northern area, and it's quite delicate in flavour with that truffle, so it
That's
doesn't
amazing.
overpower.
So it's sort of delicately mushroomy, a little bit sort of smoky.
Yeah.
Lovely soft texture. That's gorgeous. Let's move on to a red. I do like a nice red.
So this is a very special red. So this is a Barolo.
Yep.
And those that like Barolo will know that this is the wine of the kings. So Barbera in the area is the wine of the people. This is the wine of the kings.
This is Italian.
It's Italian, yes, from Piemonte, and this will, it's £45.
Ooh.
So it's one that will come out for a special occasion, but it delivers on every single part of that.
That's gorgeous.
Yeah, it's amazing. It's got the signature, like, brick red colour. And again, if you smell and swirl, you get the gorgeous cherry aromas. And
I forgot to do the swirling and
well,
sort of necking it.
not right for TV, but you can also do a swirling with your mouth. And that kind of aerates the wine within too.
Oh, that's great. And what cheese should I have that with?
So you've got to do that with your blue cheese.
Oh, yeah, of course.
So that would be a real classic combination
Let's
there.
go for that. Right. And so what's the right thing to do? Do you just put the cheese in first and then the wine, wine first?
So
or
what I like to do is have a bite of the cheese, hold it in your mouth, and then take a sip of the wine, and then you're combining those flavours together. Because when you're eating cheese and wine, quite often people at home, they'll eat one and then the other, but not think to combine. But actually, you're missing out on a like flavour explosion is what we're trying to go for here.
That's astonishing because the blue cheese is really salty, punchy, and the red wine just like glosses it all together.
It does, yeah, and it will soften those tannins because the Nebbiolo grape, the Barbera, is known for having those harsh tannins.
That's phenomenal.
And actually, the saltiness there brings out the fruitiness in the wine, so it's a real classic combination. But why I like the Barolo for a Christmas day or something like a Beaujolais, a Pinot Noir, is that it's light enough that it will go with your turkey, which is obviously a white meat.
Beautiful. Now, there's the third one here, and this is a sweet one. I like sweet wine. I like dessert wines. I like port. I like sherry. So we've got a minute left. What's this one?
So this is Sauternes, and it's a good alternative to have instead of a port. So it's got a Sauvignon Blanc and Semillon blend.
Oh my God,
Lovely and
gorgeous.
sweet. You've got apricot flavours, honeyed, and it goes so perfectly with, I'd say, pretty much all cheeses. So if you're just going to have one wine with your Christmas cheese board, I would go for either a Sauternes or a port.
And what does that cost for a bottle of that?
This is £20.
For a smaller bottle? That's great. So where can people get all of this if we've got 25 seconds
So
left?
you can get all of this from the Mouse and Grape shop, which is in Pinner in North West London, and we're also available online at mouseandgrape.com.
Jessica Summer, that was absolutely astonishing. Mouse and Grape, that is me. That's my Christmas getting started. That's all from me today. Up next, though, is a Christmas special of Jubes & Co. I'll be back on the 30th. If I can get a train, I'm trying to get out of town. Wonderful stuff. Can I just have a quick swag of wine? Cheers, Jessica.
Merry Christmas.
Wonderful. And cheers to everybody there in GB News Land. Thanks for all the viewers, all the support you've had this week, this year, beg your pardon. It's been a magnificent year, and I hope you have a very, very Merry Christmas, and I'll see you on the 30th, and have a fantastic day tomorrow. All the best. Cheers.
Despite the morning rain, it'll be a nice, warm, cosy day ahead. Boxed heat pumps, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Hello again and welcome to the latest forecast from the Met Office for GB News. It's very mild out there, just in time for Christmas. A lot of cloud across the UK, but dry for most. So actually, the weather is relatively settled, at least if you're planning any outdoor activities this Christmas. High pressure to the south, a west to southwesterly airflow, that's brought in a lot of cloud. Low-lying cloud that covers the hills in the north and the west and brings some patchy drizzle as well. Some more persistent rain overnight heading into the northwest of Scotland along with a strengthening wind. That wind, though, importing further mild air, and as a result, Christmas morning, temperatures of 9 to 12 Celsius. There will be, though, some brighter weather to be had on Christmas Day, certainly compared with Christmas Eve. You can see some cloud breaks there to the east of Wales, into the Midlands, southern England as well. It's going to be largely dry as we wake up on the big day. So England and Wales mostly fine. Northern Ireland still largely cloudy but dry. Scotland, however, it's going to be windy, particularly to the northwest where we've got some persistent rain, and it's going to stay damp over western hills. Best of the cloud breaks for Scotland, though, northeast Scotland. And where we see these cloud breaks, it will be particularly mild, 12 or 13 Celsius. And actually, not a bad afternoon if you're going for a Christmas walk across much of the UK, but particularly towards the south, where winds will generally be light and there will be some glimmers of brightness from time to time. 12 to 13 Celsius. And the warmest spots will once again be northeast Wales, northeast England, northeast Scotland, where we do get those cloud breaks coming along. Later in the day, a weather front sinks into the north and west of Scotland, bringing wet and windy weather. That will slowly trundle its way southwards, but for the vast majority, it just stays cloudy and mild until the end of the week and the weekend.
There will be a light breeze in the morning, leading to a warm front. Boxed heat pumps, sponsors of weather on GB News.
The latest GB News travel.
Good evening, I'm Samantha Dean. In Lancashire, the M6 southbound partially blocked, slow traffic due to an accident from junction 33 Preston Lancaster Road at Garstang to 32 where it meets the M55 Broughton interchange. Greater Manchester, the M62 westbound, one lane's closed due to a broken down vehicle from junction 12 the Eccles interchange to junction 11 Birchwood Way. At Cooman in Carmarthenshire, the A482's closed. Slow traffic due to a fallen telegraph pole. That's between Cooman and Harford. Leicestershire, the M1 northbound, two lanes closed, queuing traffic due to an accident at junction 23 at Loughborough. At New Eltham in London, the A211 Footscray Road's blocked due to an accident between Avery Hill Road and Thaxted Road.
You can stay up to date throughout the day by visiting our website, gbnews.com.
Imagine getting a call to tell you
I'm Christopher Hope. From pop stars to politicians, I'll interview anybody in a pub who's got a political opinion. Join me every Friday on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube or gbnews.com, or wherever you get your podcasts. This is GB News, the People's Channel.
Every Saturday, 10 till 12, we'll bring you all of the news that you need to know. We'll also remind you that there is so much to smile about.
It's my favourite time of the week. I get to relax, enjoy some light-hearted stories, and let Ellie teach me about fashion too.
That's Saturday Morning Live, every Saturday, 10 till 12.
Only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
This is Britain's Newsroom, where your voice matters.
It's just astonishing. With expert analysis and honest opinion, we don't just keep you informed.
We bring you unique perspectives you won't see anywhere else.
Can't argue with any of that. When the news happens, it happens here.
On Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 a.m.
Only on GB News.
Very good evening to you. The top story tonight. Well, thousands of migrants are gathering along France's northern coast, preparing to cross the Channel as weather conditions are set to improve on Christmas Day. Exclusive GB News footage shows hundreds at camps near Dunkirk, with thousands more spread along a 50-mile stretch towards Calais and Boulogne. Smugglers are offering so-called Christmas specials for crossings, with UK and French authorities bracing for a possible surge over the next 5 days. Border Force says it is on a heightened alert as strong winds are set to ease overnight, allowing for more crossings. More than 35,000 migrants have now made the journey so far this year. That is 20% higher than last year's total. Sakir